G'day everyone. Welcome to another live feed on Saturday, the 18th of November. We've got a special guest with us tonight, Simon from Lock Your Hubs Four-Wheel Driving. Thanks for joining us, mate. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us, Buck. A bit of an adventure down south here in Melbourne, where all the fantastic weather is, and up north Queensland with all the humidity is, buddy.
Yeah, the humidity hasn't hit yet, mate. It is. I've got the aircon on behind me, but the humidity and the wet season hasn't hit yet, mate. So it is warm. It is quite warm during the day, but the humidity's not here, and that's what the killer is. It's not the hot weather. It's hot all over Australia, but it's the humidity up here that's the killer. But we'll do a few shout-outs, Simon, and then we'll hand over to you, mate, and you give us a bit of an intro and tell us all about yourself. And the reason I had Simon on, everyone, he's got a fantastic YouTube channel. And before I forget to say it, mate, congratulations on hitting 20,000 subscribers yesterday, was it?
It was. Thanks, Buck. Yeah, a bit of an achievement. I know it's only a number, but yeah, it's a couple more than yesterday, so that's always a good thing.
No, good on you, mate. And when I first contacted you about coming live, you're on 19.9, and in the back of my head, I thought we'll get you over the 20 mark on the live feed, but you beat me to it, mate. You got the 20 by yourself. You didn't need my help, and well deserved too, because we'll probably talk about it a little bit later on. A lot of time and effort goes into YouTube, mate, doesn't it?
It does, unless you know, as I say, walk a mile in my shoes, and unless you actually do it, you don't really appreciate exactly how long that 15 or 20-minute video actually takes. It can take days.
Yeah, that's what I got the shits. Well, one of the reasons was running around filming with a camera was kind of taken away from our camping adventure, mate. It was, I don't know, it just got in the way. And people don't appreciate. Everyone's a bloody, the old keyboard warriors, mate, want to sit back and criticise you. Yeah, and they don't realise how much work that everyone puts into whether you do it for a hobby or a business or whatever. Yours is still a hobby. And, you know, it's a lot of time and effort goes into it. And a lot of people out there just seem to love to sit back and criticise what you're doing. And no one's making them watch the channel, mate. I mean, they can either watch it or they don't. And, you know, exactly. And you've got it down. You handle dickheads better than I do, mate. I feel like jumping through the computer and grabbing them around the throat. You go, if you like the video, folks, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Not once, but twice. Is that a little dig at the dickheads out there, mate, is it?
Oh, look, it is a little bit. And you want to sign off pretty quickly in videos to bring up the average view duration. So, yeah, I just thought that'd be good for a chuckle. And, yeah, give them an opportunity to say no twice.
I love it. If you haven't seen Simon's channel, bloody get on there. And I love how you wind it up, mate. And, yeah, anyway, that's just human nature, mate. People out there. But you don't do any, mate, you do a lot of, like, you just say it how you do a lot of experimenting, and we'll talk about this soon. And you just say it how it is. You're not as opinionated as me. I give my opinion on a lot of things, and that's why I guess a lot of people disagree with me at times and all that. You just get out and talk about something, and you've got the facts and figures to back you up, mate, because you do the testing on the items.
Yeah, look, there's as you say, there's a lot of opinions, a bit like belly buttons. Yeah, everyone's got one. And look, some are more right than others, and some are more wrong than others. But if you've got the data there, if you've got the testing data there, it's pretty hard to argue with, really. But some people, believe you me, will still give it a crack.
Yeah, you were telling me about that, and we'll talk about that when we get onto the snorkels. Backward or front-facing snorkels later in the live stream, mate. You can tell us all about that one. Apparently, yeah, no, it's good. Thanks. I won't go through all your names. It's all the same usual crew on there, mate. We got a bloody 94 on already, Simon, which is fantastic for a Saturday night. 94 on watching. I'm sure we'll crack 100 by the end of the stream. Mike Blakely came on about an hour ago and said, "Did I miss it?" And I said, "No, Mike, it's in an hour's time." Mike's over in Colorado in the USA, mate. So,
okay.
2 o'clock in the morning over where he is on Friday or Saturday morning over where he is.
Must be very well caffeinated.
Yeah, he the Gidgee Gorilla. He's come up with a classic, Simon. This is me brother, mate. He reckons, "Are you the bloke from the Mythbusters?"
Mate, you have absolutely no idea how many times I've heard that.
Is that right?
Yeah. Oh, he's not alone.
I never thought that before, but as soon as I read Gidgee's comment, I thought, he does. You do look a bit like the bloke, one of the guys out of Mythbusters. So you cop that a bit, do you?
Yeah, I think it might be the hat because I usually wear a flat cap, but he used to wear a beret, so it's a little bit different there. But yeah, it might be the beard. Might be the beard.
Yeah. No, you do. Now that Gidgee said that, my brother, he's there is Mike Blakely over in Colorado. G'day, Mike. How are you? Thanks for tuning in at the Sparrowfart on Saturday morning. It was about 2:00, probably, Mike, over there in Colorado. Thanks for tuning in. Mike saying g'day to Jack Turtle there in Harvey Bay. We got people from all around the country and overseas, Simon. That's why I love doing these live feeds, mate. We get a lot of people from a lot of different places. International guests as well. It's probably Saturday night for us doesn't really suit the overseas people. Like Sunday morning live stream suits Mike better because it'd be Saturday night there. If I do one at 10:00 tomorrow morning, slacking over in Canada, that's like 7:00 Saturday night for them when I do a Sunday morning one for the guys over in North America. So yeah, here's a new name. Might be one of yours, Simon. Is he Red 1141? He might be one of your subscribers.
He might be under a different username, mate. He may well be. I get a few regulars that either comment favourably or not so much on the channel. But, no, it's all good.
So anyone joining us tonight from Lock Your Hub's four-wheel driving channel, thanks so much, guys. If you haven't seen me before, I'm just some diddly donk from far north Queensland that just loves talking about anything, but in particular camping, four-wheel driving, all that type of stuff, a bit of fishing. Not that I'm Andy Riches. He's speaking of an international guest, Simon. Andy Riches over in the UK, mate. G'day, Andy. How are you, mate? Hope you're well.
G'day, Andy.
8:30, probably 8:30 or something, Andy, and Steve W. probably be on a bit later over in the UK. Hope you're well, Andy. Thanks for tuning in, mate. Hey, Johnny Price, good to see me back on YouTube, Buck. Say good day to Simon from the Toyota Land Cruiser Club.
That's me. That's one of the things I've done. I'm immediate past president of the Land Cruiser Club of Victoria.
Good on you, mate. And what we'll do, Brad Howell's on, Robin Green, all the usual. Jack Turtle saying good day to Andy Riches. That's why I love doing this, mate. We got people in Harvey Bay in Queensland saying good day to people over in the UK, mate, and having a chat and saying good day to each other. And it's a great community vibe. And that's why I've got away from the filming side of things, mate. As you know how time consuming that is. I just love sitting here and everyone having a chat with each other. Anyway, as I said, you're down there in Victoria, mate. And for those out there that, and I must admit, mate, I've watched a few of your clips. I don't know a lot about you. I know that you're a lot smarter than what I am, which isn't hard to do. Tell us a bbit about yourself, Simon. I don't know how much you want to tell us, mate. A bit about where you're from, where you grew up, what you do for a job if you want to, what you did growing up. I know you're a very technical sort of person. You're very knowledgeable. So tell us a bit about yourself, mate.
Mate, if you try to compare intellect, you should see the process I go through trying to record anything in about 13 takes at least of each one. You sit down and a 15-minute video takes you 18 minutes because you've got to turn the thing on and off. You do it all in one day. And we're astounded. A few of us YouTubers have actually discussed it down at a meeting here in Melbourne, how you can do so long a period of time and not make mistakes. No ums, no ahs. It's unbelievable. Anyway, well, what can I tell you about myself? I've lived in Melbourne all my life. I've actually lived in the same street for 48 and a half of my 49 years.
Wow.
So I haven't moved too far from here. So I've done, what do I do for a job? I've got a variety of things I do. I do a bit of freelance. I do a bit of writing, a bit of journalist for, likes of 4x4 Australia and bits and pieces like that. Also run a truck as well, bit of owner driving there. You name it, I'll give it a crack.
Yeah, good on you, mate. What made you get into YouTube?
Okay, so initially I was one of the instructors for the Toyota Land Cruiser Club and for Four-Wheel Drive Victoria down here.
Yeah.
And I kept answering the same questions, which is fine because everyone needs to start somewhere. I appreciate that. But I kept answering the same questions time and time again. And I thought to myself, it wouldn't be bad if I communicated it through a video, and that way I could refer them to the video and they could watch it. So that's how I started. So I did a couple of videos on stall stops and key starts for manual vehicles.
Yes, I've got a video of that exact topic on my channel as well, which I was taught in the army, mate. Yeah.
Yep. And the newer iterations with the non clutch start vehicles and all that sort of stuff. And it must have been all right because an old mate of mine, his girlfriend caught up with me at the Kevington Hotel, who some of you might know down here in the high country in Victoria. And she was becoming a ranger at the time. And she says, I saw you. I said, oh, well, when did you see me? She says, I saw the video you did on hill starts and stops. I said, oh, you saw it on YouTube or something, did you? And she goes, no, the guy put it up as part of my training as being a ranger of the four-wheel drive component.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So he knocked it off of YouTube and it was running it to teach Vic Park Rangers down here in Victoria, which is fantastic.
Well, you must have done a good job on it. And I'll tell you what, it's a skill that a lot of people, and I'm betting, mate, and a lot of these new guys now, I bet my left one, a lot of these new guys do not know how to do an emergency hill start or a hill descent, I should say, in a manual vehicle. If you get stuck on a steep incline and you can't go forward, the only way to go back is doing an emergency hill start, but you go backwards. And it's a bit daunting when you do it for the first couple of times, mate, isn't it? When you're only held on by reverse gear on a 45 slope. And you hit that key, forward. You go backwards, but then your compression sets in and then you can safely reverse yourself down the hill. We got taught that on our Army driver's course because all the vehicles in the Army were manual, mate. Yep. I don't know if that's the case now, but when I was in, we had old Land Rovers and Unimogs and stuff, and she was all manual back then. And we bloody learned how to do that. Speaking of Army, my son's on, and he was a recovery mechanic in the Army. Simon, my son Phil, used to drive around in the old 816. Don't know if he drove the old 816s, Phil, the old thing, but he definitely drove the Mack wreckers and all that type of stuff. So my son Phil, if there's one guy who knows what he's doing when it comes to recovery, they used to do massive recovery things on their 6-month course. They used to skull drag old tanks and armoured personnel carriers up the side of hills using bloody, we think a double line pull with a winch is pretty impressive. He used to do like 4 and 6-way pulls to get, or mechanical advantage and all that. So Anyway, thanks for tuning in, Phil. He's at home for the week from the mine. So
thank you. Hey, Phil.
Yeah. Phil's a coal miner, works out in central Queensland in the coal mines, mate. Dozer operator in the mines there. So, but how long you been doing your YouTube for now, mate? You got 20,000 subs. You've been on for a little while.
Yeah, it must be probably about 4 years, I'd say. It's been a little bit on and off. There was breaks there, 6 months or so where I really didn't put anything up because, life gets in the way. And I'm trying to be a little bit more consistent now. I'm dedicating 1 to 2 days a week just to YouTube. And we'll see how we go.
All right. Any big plans in the future coming up, mate, like that we can look forward to?
On YouTube?
Yeah.
It'll be more of the same, basically. So there's a few that I've had a real hankering to do that require a bit more setup, so it's a bit more time involved and all that sort of stuff. Did you see the one that I did with Snatch trap and winch dampeners?
I watched that today, mate, and we're going to talk about that. I actually watched that clip today because I saw it on your channel. I thought, I don't think I've seen that, and I watched it today, and we will talk about it because I've got a winch dampener or a snatch strap dampener sitting on the end of the bed to remind myself so that you can talk about that. Very, very interesting. Mate, you're obviously very technical minded. You've obviously got a lot of good qualifications. The way you pull a lithium battery apart or a travel buddy, and you know what you're looking for, you know all your amps and all that. Where did you learn all that, mate? Because it's way above my level of expertise.
Well, look, I've done a bit of formal electrical training, here and there and whatnot, but it's primarily look, my dad. And if you're watching, Dad, this is all your fault. I think we went into the old Dick Smith Electronics back in the day, and he bought me the kit. I think it was a 10-in-1 with the old spring terminals and whatnot. You make yourself a little AM radio and whatnot. Yeah, and that kicked it off. And I think the next Christmas, was it? I think I got the 200-in-1 with a couple of integrated circuits and stuff. And it's just been continuing on from there.
Mate, you know your stuff, you really do. And I tell you now, I've learned a lot off your YouTube channel. And anyone who hasn't subscribed to Lock Your Hubs 4-wheel driving, make sure you do it by the end of tonight, guys, and watch Simon's clips. And I guarantee you will learn something off his channel. And Simon, before we go any further, I want to show everyone this because I only saw it for the first time the other day, and I thought this is the best invention since sliced bread. And I want everyone. I'm not going to play the whole clip, mate. And then when the video stops playing, we'll get you to talk about it because it is a cool bloody. I don't know if it was your invention or not, mate, but it's pretty good. So stand by, guys. I'm going to play the start of one of Simon's videos for you. If I can work out how to do it. Here we go. Here we go. Can you see that, mate?
Oh, yeah. No, we got that one up on the screen. I remember that one.
Back to the bush. In this episode of Lock Hubs 4-wheel driving, we've got another travel buddy video for you. But this one, it's a little bit different. I mean, your phone hasn't had a cord for 20 years. So why should your travel buddy? Let's have a look at it in a little bit more detail. So all I've got here is 1, 2, 3, 4 Makita 18-volt 6-amp-hour tool batteries connected in parallel. Now that gives me 18 volts, but 24 amp hours, and that feeds the step-down converter there. And that's a 15-volt step-down converter feeding the input to our travel buddy. But that's all fine and well. How does it actually perform? Well, first up, let's have a look at the preheat.
First up, let's have a look at the travel buddy preheat driving versus tool batteries. On the left-hand side here, we've got the temperature in degrees Celsius, and along the bottom here, the time in minutes. Now, your driving took exactly 53 minutes, and that's the blue line there, on 14 volts or driving voltage. And 15 volts, well, that was substantially less, only 43 minutes, and that's a 23% improvement. Now, your driving voltage is very similar to the lithium battery voltage. So those who think lithium gives you as good a performance as a 15-volt step up, well, obviously not. You're down at least 23%, if not more, on your preheat alone.
23% faster. I didn't see that coming. But the gold standard is the 4 frozen pie test with a preheat. So let's check out the performance there.
So now let's get into the meat of it, quite literally. Now on the left-hand side here, we've got the temperature in degrees Celsius ranging from 0 right through to 160 degrees. And along the bottom here, well, that's the time in minutes. And I had to take the temperature of both internally in the oven and the pie temperature itself. Now, after a bit of Googling, it gave me a result, a conclusion amongst different pie companies that a hot pie had an internal temperature of 74 degrees Celsius, which is just above my ideal temperature of a steak, which is 71 degrees Celsius. Or well done. So I'm going with that.
I'm with you, mate. Well done.
I like my steak well done. There's no other way to have it, really. Rightio. So this is the internal temperature of the oven on the tool batteries on a regulated 15 volts coming out of that step up there. And this is the pie temperature when we reach 74 degrees Celsius. Now let's compare that with the driving voltage of 14 volts. And that's our oven temperature there. And finally, that mustard line here, Well, that's the internal temperature of the pie running on 14 volts. Now, that took 77 minutes to reach 74 degrees Celsius running on 14 volts. But our pie temperature running on 15 volts off the tool batteries, well, that only took 49 minutes. And that is a 57% improvement.
So not only was it 23% faster to get to our preheat temperature of 180 degrees Celsius, it was 57% faster to heat up our pies to an internal temperature of 74 degrees Celsius. I didn't see that coming.
Well, we'll go back to the thing. I'll remove that one. Mate,
Yep.
Has anyone ever seen that? Put some comments down, guys. Has anyone seen on any other YouTube channel a travel buddy running off 18-volt bloody tool batteries? Where'd you come up with that one, mate?
I saw someone. I'm also into 3D printing, which probably doesn't come as a surprise, running the nerd flag up the pole. But I saw a bloke who was doing tool battery connectors. Oh, I'll just say Ty in the comment section. He's a mate of mine who used to live down here in Victoria. Yeah, and he's picked it up your way, I believe. He's up in Cairns now. There, he's around the corner from you. There,
right. Okay.
So
an hour up the road.
He's enjoying the warm weather.
Yeah, he's had enough of that bloody Mexican weather, mate. He said, "I'm going up north for some heat."
He used to live down near Geelong way, a little bit past Geelong, not quite in Melbourne, but same sort of weather.
I had Jack Turtle said he's never seen it before, and I hadn't either, Jack, and that's why I want to talk about it tonight and get Simon to explain it to us.
Yeah, so I previously did one with step ups, which I suppose the whole step up and travel buddy thing is my fault, or yeah, could be viewed like that.
Yeah.
I bought a travel buddy, and it was great when I was driving the car. And back then, I've had it for very many years. And back then, when you stopped the car, it was running off your AGM batteries. So lithiums were just starting to come on the market, but they were still extremely expensive. No one really had that. And I thought to myself, well, having a little bit of electronics knowledge, it's just Ohm's law, and you just need to increase the voltage to get more wattage out of the thing, so it increases the current. So I thought, one of those step-ups, those cheap eBay step-ups might help the situation. So I grabbed a couple, 13.8 and a 15-volt, and by Jesus, they make a difference. And then I thought to myself, well, there was these newer ones on the market with a wide-ranging input. You can go 20-something volts into them. And I thought, those Makita batteries are about 20 volts when they're fully charged. I wonder if we bolt a couple of those to the back of the thing, whether we can make a portable unit. Now, it managed to do a preheat, and it managed to fully cook 4 and 20 pies from frozen. So it did the job, but you couldn't do it twice out of it, unfortunately. So
okay, so it's a one-off. You'd have to charge all 4 batteries after it.
Yeah. It'd be good for one day for lunch, and then you'd have to charge them up overnight on the rapid charger or something.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And we're going to talk about the travel. While we're talking about the travel buddy, mate, we're going to go on and talk about that now. One thing before I even had a travel buddy, Tofty Toff from Zone RV came up, stayed here for a few days in his own caravan. And he said, I'm going to go out and cook some spring rolls or whatever in the travel buddy. And, mate, they took forever. They absolutely took forever. And he didn't have a step-up converter or whatever you call it. So it does, unless you got one of those step-up converters. When I was at the Harvey Bay camping event last year, I forget who you are now, sorry, but he gave me one of those step-up converters with already Anderson plugged up.
Oh, yeah.
Why do they make such a difference? And why doesn't Travel Buddy put one on the back? If it takes so long to get hot and to cook things, why don't Travel Buddy put one on there, mate, as standard?
Look, it's like I say, I love my Travel Buddy, and I've had the thing for many years, and unfortunately the competition's come in, and all the modifications that were done to the Travel Buddy, the likes of Somerville Metalworks and K-On do. Shout out to Rory if you're watching from Somerville Metalworks.
Talk about it soon, mate. Yeah,
they do a lot of accessories and stuff for them. They just haven't innovated at all, unfortunately. And it's a bloody shame because they've got a fantastic product, and there's a lot of people who want to purchase Australian goods, even if they're a tiny bit more expensive than the imported stuff, to keep money onshore, keep their kids in jobs, and that's I know that a lot of the componentry inside the travel buddy is imported, but it's still made down here in Victoria, in country Victoria, down Bendigo way. Yes. And it's still using manual labour. The taxes are going towards the government, which is spent in Australia, and all that sort of stuff. So it's just a shame they haven't sort of innovated at all that I know of in the last 20 plus years.
I must say, I've got to give Travel Buddy. I did for the Harvey Bay event. The owner of Travel Buddy at the time, he gave me 3 travel buddies. He gave me one for myself, which my son Phil has now got in the canopy of his Hilux, mate, which has got that step-up converter. And he gave me 2 travel buddies as prize giveaways at the Harvey Bay charity event that I ran in August last year. Absolutely fantastic company, mate. Aussie made, as we know. But there is a lot of competition on that have come in now, and as they all do, you come up with an idea, everyone copies it. They go to China and it gets copied. There's a lot of companies out there now that have got the Chinese travel buddy. Kick-Ass, Red Roads, Kings. There's probably a few more.
Every man their dog. Road Chef for the first.
And I figured his name now, the owner of Travel Buddy, and I said, mate, why have you still got a 12-volt cigarette thing on the end of the Travel Buddy and not an Anderson plug? Why don't you have an insulated door or a glass door so you can see how your food's going inside, so you don't have to open it up? Things that the Chinese travel buddies have got, and I don't know, they just seemed a bit reluctant to change, mate. And you've got to keep up with the Joneses.
Yeah, look, I'm all for not changing things if they don't require it. It's no good in changing things for the sake of change. You want to make changes for the better. And things like as basic as the latch. I mean, the latch, yes, you can keep bending the thing out a little bit, but eventually the reason you got to bend it out is because it empties your pies going down a track, which happened to me down the bottom of Billy Goat track up in the high country. And in the back of a mate's Jim's ute, all the travel buddy emptied itself and all the pies went everywhere, which is a bit of a shame. Yeah. But look, the aftermarket has come to the fore and is supplying that sort of stuff. But I believe that they're obviously losing sales, and I understand they were having trouble keeping up with demand as it was. So look, I don't know, I really don't. And it's just a shame. It really is.
It'd be good to have him on to talk about that, but I think Anderson plug is one thing, and if someone wants to we'll bring this in here. We've got a couple of pictures there. So the old Tool Batteries travel buddy there, absolutely fantastic idea. The old Makita. Why do we need a voltage regulator, and how do we get one, mate? And explain a little bit how much difference they make if you want to cook a pie in your travel buddy or one of the Chinese ones. I'm guessing the Chinese ones don't come with a bloody a regulator as well.
No, and the performance is literally chalk and cheese between the two, especially with the 15-volt step up. It used to be the AGM dropping down in voltage. Those who aren't familiar with AGMs, is when you deplete the energy in AGM, the voltage drops down even further. Yeah, unlike lithium. So, when Winch is just about dead, it's down to 10 or 10.5 volts. Whereas lithium seems to maintain the voltage better, which is better for resistive stuff like the travel buddy. It's basic Ohm's law. You need to keep the voltage up in order to keep the current flowing. And if you increase the voltage a little bit, not excessively, you're going to get a better performance out of it. And ironically, you actually save battery capacity, which I didn't think so at the start of it. So, I mean, you want to get your pies cooked for the minimum amount of expenditure out of your battery as possible, especially if you're down in Victoria and you don't get a lot out of solar, right?
Yeah,
unlike you lucky blokes up in far north Queensland.
Yeah.
So you want to maximize the utilization of your battery capacity. So because it is using more current, but it's using it for a much shorter time.
Yes.
Time span. So overall, you actually save battery capacity by using a step up, even though the step ups aren't 100% efficient.
Yeah. So if I run a travel buddy off my lithium battery, how many volts would be going in there as opposed to a step up?
Okay, so depending on the step up, so your lithium battery should be maintained about 13.1, 12.8 under load, something like that. Depends on the battery and the quality. Yeah. And the step up will either be 13.8, and they usually put out about 14 volts, or the 15 volts, and they usually put out roughly about 15 volts.
Which gets it up to temperature. It gets it up to temperature quicker, maintains the temperature, which means it cooks your stuff quicker.
Yeah, and even those, there's a sizable difference in performance even between lithium voltage of 13.1 and the 13.8 or 14 volts that comes out of the 13.8 volt step up. So even that's a worthwhile modification. But the 15 volts, it really does transform it. But there is one thing better than a 15 volt, 12 volt travel buddy, and that's the 24 volt version.
How do we do that?
28 volt step up. So,
wow.
So,
okay.
So the 24 volt is actually rated higher. I think it's 100 versus 120 watts, something like that. And the charging voltage on 24 volt vehicles is around about 28 volts. So that's fine to run into it. And I tested it against the same size unit. If you already have a travel buddy, get yourself a 15 volt step up. If you don't already have a travel buddy, I think there's a couple of bucks difference price in between the two. Get yourself the 24 volt step up. 24 volt unit. Get yourself a 28 volt step up, and you'll be amazed. It's even better than I was amazed than the 12 volt travel buddy running on a 15 volt step up.
And better for your battery too, mate. The 24 volt one with a 28 volt step up.
Yeah, because you're utilizing it for even less amount of time.
What time are we looking at, you reckon? Say cooking a pie on a 12 volt travel buddy with a step up to a 24 volt travel buddy with a 28 volt step up. What would the difference be there, cooking a few pies in there?
Oh, I'd have to refer to the figures, but it'd be in comparison with running it on, an AGM or whatever, without the car running, it's about half the amount of time.
Wow, that's a big difference. And you've actually, from memory, you've got a clip on the 24 volt travel buddy, mate, as well.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I bought one because I thought it's got 100. I think it's 20% extra wattage in the element for starters, and I thought, I might give it a crack and see if one of the step ups. Obviously, no good if you've already got a 12 volt one, but if you haven't got one, you'd be mad to go anywhere else.
Well, if you got a 12 volt one, go and grab a 15 volt inverter or step up. Where do we get those, mate? From your mate at Kaon? He's got them, has he?
Not sure if Kaon stocks them. I know Rory does down there at Somerville Metalworks. I think in the clip there's an Amazon link, wherever you like. There's eBay. There's plenty available. Yeah. So just have a look at the specifications on them. So there's a certain amount of wattage. So you want the right amount of wattage. Usually, I think they're 235 watt and won't get too hot on you. And like I said, it'll absolutely transform the little travel buddy. Yeah, fantastic.
Wow, yeah. So anything we talk about tonight, guys, is there's a fair chance Simon's got a clip on it. So make sure you go back in the coming weeks. If we hit a topic tonight that you're really interested in, go on to Lock Your Hubs 4-wheel driving and watch the clip that Simon's got, because you back it up with, you do all the experimenting, mate. You just don't talk about it. You actually put it to the test. You put all the meters and that on there, and you've got, it's a 20% increase and voltage and all that. You back it up with facts and figures, mate.
Yeah. Look, I just see a lot of reviews on YouTube with a lot of opinion. And look, some things you can't review, you can't get data on because it's just not feasible. But the stuff you can, you're much better off, doing an A/B comparison, and then you'll know definitively one way or the other which one's better or which one's worse. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll stay with the theme, mate. So voltage regulators, guys, hope you got something out of that. If you've got a 12 volt travel buddy, get the 15 volt step up to improve its capability. If you don't have one at all, Travel Buddy now have a 24 volt one, and they need a 28 volt step up, Simon, correct?
Yeah, 28 volt step up will do the job on the 24 volt Travel Buddy.
Yeah, all right. Fantastic. Right, our next one. What we're talking
the old
about,
insulated door.
Yeah, the insulated door. Travel Buddy don't come with an insulated door, whereas the Chinese versions do, mate. But there is if someone's got a Travel Buddy and want to put a better insulated door on there, which is going to increase its efficiency, where do they get them from, mate?
I believe that one that I installed in there is a K-On, and I believe Somerville Metalworks do them as well.
Yeah, Somerville Metalworks or K-On guys have the thing. And you did the testing of an uninsulated door to an insulated door, correct?
I did, and that was the K-On model. Look, it wasn't the game changer that a step up is, but it's definitely a worthwhile addition.
All right, so a step up and an insulated door. If you get both, you go a step up before an insulated door, obviously.
Oh, 100%, yes.
Yeah. Now, this is something we don't really like talking about, mate, because you did some testing between the Aussie-made Travel Buddy, which is the original, and it's a good bit of kit, but it could be better, and it's been overtaken by its competitors and its copiers, mate. Unfortunately, you can make it better. As I said, the Travel Buddies can be made better with a 15 volt step up, an insulated door. But you did a big comparison with the Road Chef, which is one of the Chinese versions, mate, and the results are not what we want to hear. You want to talk a bit about the results. You did an in-depth comparo between the two.
Yeah, so this is when Road Chef just came onto the market. Actually, Rory, actually from Somerville Metalworks, lent me that one. I said, mate, you understand I'm going to pull it apart, don't you? He said, yeah, no problems.
Yeah. Which is you pull them apart and you check out what's inside them, the wiring, everything. You go right through them in detail.
And look, firstly, I did a performance comparison between the two, and compared the features. So the likes of the Road Chef has a insulated door. It has a over center latch. It has an Anderson from factory. All the stuff that I wish the Travel Buddy come with. So then I pulled it apart and compared the componentry. Look, most of the componentry within the Travel Buddy and the Road Chef sourced from overseas, are all Chinese componentry. You don't really get a choice these days as to where you source these from, because manufacturing is so much cheaper over there. Manufacturing in Australia can't compete. But I compared also the quality of the installation of the componentry, and look, I got to say that and as much as I hate saying it, the Road Chef was better built.
Is that right, mate? Wow. And that's why I wish Travel Buddy would contact you and go, right, mate, how can we make it better? And if I was an Australian manufacturer or assembler, like as I said, it's not it's assembled here, I guess. I'd be going to guys like you who've done the in-depth testing and go, righto, we got a good thing. Some of the guys it's like being a footy team, mate. You might be the best footy team, and then eventually a couple other teams start beating you. You can't just keep going the way you're going. You've got to improve the way you train and the way you play, and you've got to improve to beat that. And I just wish Travel Buddy had contact guys like you and go, righto, Simon, what do we got to do, mate? I know you're passionate about Aussie made and all that type of stuff. Yeah. How can we make this better? And you can say, this is what I found. This was better on the Road Chef. This was good. You need an over center latch so that the pies don't bloody fly over. It is quite a sturdy door on the Travel Buddy, but if you're on a real, like the Peninsula Development Road going to Cape York, there is a chance it could fly open. It can't do it when you've got an over center latch on there. An insulated door. You know what I mean? Like, you shouldn't have to buy aftermarket parts to make something better. It should be, if it's Aussie made, it should be bloody spot on when it comes out of the factory. And Travel Buddy can improve. It's a great item, but it can be improved.
And look, there's a great little Facebook group of very passionate people supporting Australian products, and which is fantastic. I'm part of that as well.
Yeah.
But like I say, it's just well, firstly, they obviously didn't protect their IP, which is a shame. That's why all the competitors came onto the market. But they've just been sitting on their laurels for so long. And look, I think because it's not a high price point item, and to get it much better than what it is wouldn't cost that much more in manufacturing, and people would happily pay a premium, to keep Aussie jobs here and buy an Australian made product. I know I would. I'd happily pay an extra $50 or $80, no problems.
Michelle Manton said she would too, mate. I'd still buy Australian made over Chinese. And I know a lot of people will pay extra to go Australian made.
Yep.
To a certain extent. Obviously, with a smaller item like that, when you're talking caravans and you're talking $50,000 difference, maybe it's different there. But when you're talking about a Travel Buddy, just quickly, mate, what would you do to the Travel Buddy if you were head of Travel Buddy now? What would you do to stick it up the Chinese and say, "I've got the best item on the market"? What would you do?
I'd probably have two different models. Probably the base model still having the Anderson plug, decent gauge wire, not dissimilar to what it is at the moment. Over center latch. Look, I'm neither here nor there with the insulated door. Yes, it does add performance. Like I say, it's not a game changer, and probably offer a step up as an option. To be honest, that'd absolutely fly out the door, and then offer a more premium model for those who are available or want to be able to get a more premium model, maybe with a few electronic controls in there that you can control in cab. Because a lot of these things are built into canopies where they're not easily accessible, and people all the time, say to me, "Oh, can you do a modification where you can turn it on remotely,
like get a Bluetooth option or something to it,
Bluetooth or an app or something, and you can control it from within your vehicle in the cab out the back." Your average 79 series owner who doesn't mind spending 100 and something K on a vehicle, they'd fly out the door. I really would.
Yeah, and I hope Travel Buddy see this. We're not knocking them by any means, mate.
No, definitely
wonderful. We're not knocking them. We're just trying to help them out, and hopefully you'd love to see Travel Buddy go, righto, the opposition's bloody got one up on us. Wait out, watch this and get this one up yours, and bloody come back with an even bigger and better model, because I know people love the Travel Buddy. It's a fantastic item, isn't it? So Aussies love their hot pies, mate. What better way to cook them when you're out bush?
And we've got a lot of technical innovation in Australia. I mean, Red Arc is a prime example. World leaders, really. They really are. And there's other companies out there, not necessarily in four-wheel driving. ARB, they're an international renowned mob. I mean, you go over to the States and everybody loves ARB because it's an Australian thing and it's Australian proven, and it's just it could be so much more than it is at the moment.
Yeah, I know. I've got in the camper trailer I just bought, mates. I got a Red Arc Manager 30 in there, and it's a fantastic. It really is, and you're proud to go. That stuff's made in Australia, and it's bloody very, very good quality. We've got the capability to do all this, Simon. Unfortunately, there's a lot of things going against Australian manufacturing now. Wages is a big one. Insurances, cost of electricity to open a factory, the cost of rent a shed to build out of. You can go on. We could do a separate live feed about it. It's a shame, and I take my hat off to any company that's out there still having a crack, mate, because it can't be easy trying to manufacture in this country.
The likes of Red Arc, and Red Arc isn't by any means the cheapest available stuff out there. All right, so you're paying a premium for the Red Arc, and you're paying a premium because of the lower volumes, throughput volumes that they sell. So they have to increase the margin on it. You're paying for the fact that you're keeping innovation in Australia, manufacturing in Australia. A lot of their stuff is actually manufactured over in South Australia, which is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
And they're innovators. They really are world leaders. So the technology there, it's available. People will pay a premium for an Australian-made product. Yeah. And it's just a shame that everyone has trouble seeing past the immediate bottom line and says, well, manufacturing in Australia, it's a lot cheaper to get it manufactured overseas.
Yeah, and the cost of living now, mate, for the average Joe like you or me and all that, if you've got an electrical system that'll do the job for you out bush, that costs $1,000 and Aussie made ones $3,500 or $4,000, then everyone's got a budget. And one thing I do know, Zone RV caravans made down there on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland, mate, all their vans are kitted out with Red Arc, which is fantastic. I know Tofty, the CEO or the general manager, whatever he calls himself there, Tofty, if you're watching, they support Australian manufacturing big time because they build the caravans here, and all their vans are kitted out with Red Arc, mate, and it's very, very good gear. If anyone's got Red Arc, you'll know how good it is.
Oh, yeah, I put a Red Arc system into a mate's 200 series not all that long ago. If Gabby's out there, go Gab. He's absolutely fantastic. It was a ARB kit involving the DC or BCDC charger from Red Arc, and it was an absolutely fantastic kit. The install was fantastic, and the quality was good. It was really easy to put in, and he pretty much drove from where he is over in Victoria over to Western Australia, and it's been faultless ever since. So
good stuff.
It's great stuff.
Why does Red Arc call their DC chargers BCDC, battery charger direct current, and everyone else calls them DC? Is there anything in that?
Actually, no, I don't know. Don't know the answer to that.
Only Red Arc call it BCDC, and everyone else says a DC to DC charger. I don't know.
Technically, they are DC to DC chargers.
Yeah.
But why they actually want to call them BCDC, I don't know.
Yeah, battery charger direct current, which is 12 volt, I suppose, is it, or whatever? Yeah. Anyway, another bloody item which I've got on the end of the bed here, which I've used a few times, and you probably saw it when it came up. The next little thing, you've got a clip on this, mate, and I know this company, which is a Chinese company, was getting onto all the YouTubers and saying, can you do a video clip for us? I ended up doing one because I used it a few times, and I've got it here. It's the old SUV doorstep, mate. There it is there. And I'll tell you now, I've used that a few times on the BT50. I was worried about that hooks into your door latch and you step on there. And I was worried about it bending the door latch because if you do that, you can't close your door. It hasn't done that. The door latch is a very, very thing. That's helped me get some shit off my roof, like get the extra height to be able to get up and tie the swag and the gazebo on that on my bloody roof, my roof rack. And I'll tell you now, mate, they're only fairly cheap. I'm 100 kilos. They hold me. They give you the extra height. I don't think they're a bad little item. You've obviously done some torture testing, and we'll get you to talk about that. There it is there, guys, the SUV doorstep. And I keep that in the BT50. So I get the extra height. So if I need to get up and get the extra height from a roof rack, Simon.
Yeah, they're not, as you say, I got hounded by those guys too. And yeah, and look, I said to them, look, I'd like 3 of them, please. They said, what is that? I said, well, I want to break a couple. And look, when you say that to a company, they either have faith in the product or they don't. And to their credit, they said, yep, no problems, we'll send it over. I said, look, complete honesty, that's what I do. I test stuff. And my full intention is to break it and see what it breaks at, just find out whether it's a safe component or not. And they said no problems. So they sent a few over, and I broke one. 2, sorry. Yeah, broke 2.
So you put a torture test, yeah?
Yeah, so I put a hydraulic, I set it up on my tube bender, and I put a little latch in from a door jamb, and I set it on actually upside down so I could use a hydraulic jack and put a load cell in there so I could tell exactly how much pressure I was putting on it. I think I broke it about 330 kilograms from memory or thereabouts.
Wow.
So, you got to remember when you're bouncing up and down on it, because if if you're, let's say 100 kilograms, for instance, that's only a static load, but when you're bouncing down, it'll be more than that. So you need a bit of a factor of safety. And
Yeah.
look, I think it was around about 300 kilograms. It was plenty anyway. There's more than enough.
That's still pretty impressive for a little bit of what's made out of bloody alloy or aluminium or something, isn't it?
Yeah, just die-cast aluminium.
Yeah, and mate, it does the job. And everyone was worried when they first come out about them bending the
door jamb
that hooks onto your door jamb. So, but it doesn't. It doesn't even look like bending that. And I've used it a few times now, mate, and it does the trick. And obviously, it's only small. You haven't got a lot of purchase up there, but just to get 1 foot up there, just to get up and be able to get up and get your ratchet straps to tie your stuff down on your roof rack, I give them a thumbs up, mate, for what they are, and I don't think they're that expensive. And if they can hold 330 kilos, that's pretty good. That's not, you don't expect them to hold a ton or anything. I mean, they're only to put 1 foot on and get up and help you get up onto your roof rack. So if anyone's got one of them, put a comment down, guys, and let us know what you think of it. I've had that for a couple of years now. I did a video clip on it. I think just about every YouTuber, every four-wheel drive channel YouTuber got approached by the company to promote it. And that's what they'd say, can we send you this item to do a YouTube clip on? And to their credit, they gave you 3, mate, and you put it to the test. Did they get back to you and say anything about you breaking them or whatever? Or they would have been pretty happy?
Yeah, they were pretty happy. The lady that was in communication with, I emailed her a link to the video, and I said, "Oh, here you go, and have a look and see what you think, and get back to me." And she said she was pretty happy, and she asked if she could put a couple of screenshots from it on their website. I said, "Yep, no problem, go mad." Yeah. And she was pretty happy with it. So that's all you can hope for, really.
Yeah, Brad Howell's got one. He rates it, and Jack Turtle even said 300 kilos. Not too many blokes out there weigh 300 kilos that go out camping, mate. And I think if you weigh 300 kilos, the chance of you wanting to try and climb up and get on a roof rack are pretty slim. So, SUV doorstep they're called, guys. If you haven't got one and you want to look into that. What's the next subject we're going to talk about? Exactly what we're talking about there before. DC chargers. Basically, just in layman's terms, mate, tell us what a DC charger is and why we need one when we're driving. I know there's a lot of people out there that never ran a DC charger and wonders why their batteries were going flat. Why do we need a DC to DC charger? What do they do? Why do we need one?
Yeah. Okay, so back in the old AGM days, you could probably get away more or less. There was an advantage to a DC charger back in the day because it's all to do with the amount of voltage, and of course all charging systems in cars are tailored to lead acid batteries because that's what everyone runs in 99.5% of cars.
Yeah,
and still do, of course. You know, with the exception of the occasional Porsche and whatnot. But so what a DC charger does is able to tailor the voltage to suit the particular battery chemistry.
Yeah.
So and you're usually they're a little bit slower than alternator charging, but you'll get a more complete charge. You actually, instead of getting the likes of an AGM, you probably get it up to about 80-85% with the alternator, depending on the wiring and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
With a DC charger, you'll get it up to 100%.
Yeah. And that's exactly right. So, alternator is definitely the way to go. Solar won't charge you thing, but a lot of them too now have built-in solar regulators, mate, so that when you're driving, it's basically so when you're driving, you can't overcharge your battery and blow it up. But when you stop, a lot of these DC chargers now have an inbuilt solar regulator so that you can plug your solar panels into them. So when you're camping and you're not driving for a couple of days, the sun can keep your batteries topped up so you can keep running your fridges and all that type of stuff. Now, there's a couple of different types of solar regulators. There's MPPT and PWM. I don't understand a lot about it. All I know is that MPPT is the better one of the two. Once again, in layman's terms, if you're going to get a DC charger and it's got an inbuilt solar regulator, what should we be looking for?
Well, without a shadow of a doubt. So you got the two different systems: PWM, which stands for pulse width modulation, which is just switching on and off basically, and MPPT, which is maximum power point tracking. Without getting too technical, it's more efficient is the MPPT.
Yeah.
And look, the price differential now is very, very low in between and there's so few PWM chargers available now. You'd be bad to use anything but MPPT. But there are limitations with some of the inbuilt MPPT chargers. So the likes of Red Arc, they have limitations as far as how much voltage you can jam into them, which is a disadvantage. So the likes of Victron, they don't do combination units. So you have your separate DC-DC charger and you have your separate MPPT solar charger. But in that scenario, the MPPTs can take a higher voltage, so you can use house panels.
Wow, yeah.
For the likes of your solar system. So because they produce so many house panels are usually a lot more efficient because there's a lot more competition. So there's a lot more R&D invested into solar house panels than there is camping panels. But they run at a higher voltage. And usually in order to utilize that higher voltage, a lot of the combo units won't take that higher voltage. So then you need a separate charger that can take 80 or 100 volts or whatever the case is.
Yeah. Okay, mate. I've got a iTech World battery in the back of the BT50 with a 40 amp DC charger on there, which has got an inbuilt MPPT solar regulator, so I can run solar in there. It needs 13.1 volts before it'll click on. So I've noticed when my solar panels are out, as soon as the sun goes behind a cloud, it clicks off, which means I've got no power going in the battery. I've noticed with the Red Arc system on the camper trailer, it still works in low light. So I've still got at least some power. The DC charger the Red Arc DC charger manager 30 stays on, and it's still putting something in even in low light. Whereas the iTech World, and I haven't spoken to the guys about that, it only clicks on 13 if those solar panels are 13.1 volts. And I don't know, sometimes when you've got a dull day, you still want some power going into your bloody battery, don't you?
Yeah, and it depends on the type of solar panel or solar blanket or whatever you're using. So some solar panels are more suitable to less ideal conditions, and some are more suited to full sun, like monocrystalline panels, like what's in most house panels. They're better suited to full sun, whereas when it gets a bit shady, they're not that great. Whereas the Morpheus panels, like a Red Arc solar blanket, they're better in slightly shady or overcast type conditions. You'll still get a bit of output out of them.
Yeah. Hey, what are you running in your cruiser, mate? Like, give us a quick rundown of like you're running lithium and all in your cruiser. What camping setup?
Actually, I'm in the middle of changing it over. So I don't run. I haven't run previously the likes of induction or whatever. I was just running a fridge, so I just had a full river AGM in there. At the moment,
for AGM, they are very good full river.
Oh yeah, they're good. Yeah, they were good back in the day. It's better choices now, of course, but back in the day, they were one of the better AGM batteries. And that's finally died, so I thought it was time to do a bit of an upgrade and move on to lithium. So that's what I'm in the middle of now. I'm just collecting bits and pieces together and going to put a decent system in there.
Any idea what you're leaning towards, mate, or are you keeping that for your YouTube channel?
As far as componentry is concerned?
Oh, well, a brand of lithium and DC chargers and all that type of stuff. Is there a certain brand you're looking at, or?
As far as the battery is concerned, because I like fiddling with stuff, I'll be using. I'm building one which is EVE cells, 280 amp hour cells. So you put 4 of them together, and then you plug a BMS on the side, battery management system. So that'll be a bit of my own concoction. Because I like fiddling with stuff, surprisingly, I tend to lean towards the Victron gear. I like Red Arc gear, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't allow nearly as much fiddling as the Victron gear does. So I've got a bit of the Victron gear together.
Where's Victron made? It's overseas, isn't it?
Look, I think they're a Scandi company from memory, I think Netherlands or somewhere around those sort of.
Righto, yeah.
But I think that a lot of the manufacturing is done in Asia, I think Taiwan and whatnot.
Yeah. And that'll be on your YouTube channel, mate. You making your own lithium battery and what you're coming up with. You're thinking of making some out of that?
Yeah, I'll definitely be throwing that up there.
Well, mate, you're the man with the knowledge, so I'm sure that whatever you come up with, it's going to be a honky-dory system. So what's our next topic? DC chargers, guys. Here we go. The old bloody 18-volt chainsaws. And you've got the Makita one. I've got a Ryobi one. And for camping and chopping a few branches off some dead trees for firewood when you're out camping, mate, I rate the 18-volt chainsaws. And the Ryobi one, you don't go and knock down massive red gums and go out as a forestry worker with one. Like you go a petrol one. But for camping and the average Joe just knocking a few branches off some dead trees or some stuff that's on the ground for firewood, they go all right, don't they?
They do. So I've got a larger chainsaw, petrol chainsaw as well. And if we're going out, cutting wood, that's what I'll grab. But I'll also take the little Makita with me because you can de-limb nice and quickly with a little chainsaw. I think it's a 14 or 16-inch bar on it. But for heavy duty stuff, I'd definitely use the old 2-stroke still. But for camping and whatnot, and look, this is going to upset people in the comments. Petrol chainsaws are dead for camping. It's just no need for it.
No.
The with the brushless technology, for cutting off a few limbs or cutting up a bit of firewood, or even up the high country knocking through a couple of fallen down trees, electric's where it's at.
Yeah,
they're a lot quieter. They don't smell. I had to kick the still out of the car because as much as I think 2-stroke smells like Chanel No. 5 to myself, that the better half wasn't of the same vein, let us say, and I had to evict it onto the roof rack. So, but when I got an electric, well, there's no stench. So that went into the cab, no problems.
Matthew Lily's got a 36-volt Ryobi, so she'll have a lot more grunt than my little 18-volter, and it's meant for 4x4 and camping. Petrol Husky for a lot of cutting. Yeah, the old Husqvarna petrol ones. And I know Still's one of the big brands. They've got a very, very good 36-volt electric chainsaw as well, as depending on how much you want to spend. But for someone like me, mate, who just wants to chop a few bloody little dead branches like that up into, 12-inch bits to put on the campfire, the old Ryobi does the job, and they're available from Bunnings. Obviously, Makita, probably the higher the price, the better the chainsaw you're getting. You're getting right up into a bloody the Still 36 volts and that. But yeah, they go all right. Timmy the toolman here, I've got a 36-volt Husqvarna at the block. It's awesome and doesn't leak. All my other ones leak oil. I'm having to drain the oil back into the container after each use. So yeah, exactly right. First time I saw an electric chainsaw, and it's I did a tag-along tour up in the Daintree rainforest, and Tim the toolman, pulled his little 18-volt chainsaw out and chopped up some firewood. Nicky Slade was there, and I'd run a big camping event up here, mate, and I did a tag-along. Tim pulled the little 18-volt chainsaw out, and I thought, how bloody good are these things? I ended up buying a Ryobi one from Bunnings because I got all the Ryobi batteries for me bloody whippersnipper and me shed blower and all that type of stuff. So that's the first time I saw one in action. Was Tim the toolman pulled his little bloody 18-volt out at what brand was that, Tim? Was it a Makita? I can't remember from memory. Yeah, and that's the other thing too, Landy Smurf. The fact there's minimal noise coming out of them. Exactly, no noisy and less things to worry about. I've got an 18-volt. Sorry, I've got a 12-volt Ryobi charger now, mate, and I used it when I was away. So I don't need a 240-volt or an inverter to charge my Ryobi batteries. I've got a 12-volt charger that will charge my 18-volt batteries, and it works just as quick as what the 240-volt ones do.
They're just as fast, and they're actually more efficient. I did a video on that as well.
You got a video on that as well. Wow.
I do. So my dad runs Ryobi stuff, the 18 plus volt range, Ryobi 1 system or whatever it is, and he had a 12-volt charger, and I run only 12-volt chargers for my Makita stuff. I don't own a 240-volt charger, but I borrowed one from the son-in-law, and so I did a bit of a comparison. Now they weren't the rapid chargers, but in comparison with the standard chargers, the both the Ryobi and the Makita were just as fast, but more efficient. So because you're not losing through, you're not having to convert over to AC and then back to DC at the high voltage. You're just doing the one conversion, so it's more efficient.
I just love the fact now I've got Ryobi's got like over 100 tools now, and a lot of that stuff is great for camping, spotlights and torches, and we've got a fan for the rooftop tent, a Ryobi fan, and one of those batteries lasts all night, and I can just charge the battery up the next day, and it's ready for the next night in the rooftop tent. Absolutely fantastic. And I've got 120 amp hour lithium battery, so I've got plenty of power there, so I can charge all my Ryobi batteries up. It's just, we're so spoilt now, aren't we, with how far we've come with all the Gucci gear that we've got. That makes our camping just an easier and better experience, mate.
I tell you, have you seen the misting fan from Ryobi, Buck?
I know. I nearly bought one, and you've got a clip on it. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts?
So a mate of mine who's actually in the comment section, Matt, that you highlighted before, he gives me a hand with the lockyard stuff, and he bought one, and it was a stinking hot weekend for Victoria. And where were we? You might be able to answer in the comments there, Matt. I think we're out of Avoca at the Pyrenees Ranges from memory, Glenpatrick Campground, and he had one, and it was absolutely stinking hot. And so he turned on this misting fan. It was like absolutely fantastic. And I thought, that's great, but I'm entrenched in the Makita ecosystem. So what do? Do I really want one of these fans? So it turns out there's adapters available to run. It's 18 volts is 18 volts, right?
Yeah.
So I can run and it's actually running in the background, cooling the computer at the moment. It's a little bit warm in the room here. I'm running, not with the misting function obviously going, but I'm running a Ryobi fan off a Makita battery, and it works fine, and it has for years now. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah, and it is a big thing. Buying the batteries and the chargers and that is probably the big expense. And I think and that's why I started with Ryobi and I stick with Ryobi. I know Makita probably make better power tools on that, but for what I do around the house and out camping, mate, Ryobi's all I need. I know you don't see a lot of bloody tradies walking around with Ryobi gear. They've usually got Makita or Milwaukee or something like that, DeWalt. But for the old average hacker like me, I might have to get one of those misting fans, mate, for up here in front.
Do yourself a favour, mate. You will not regret. They're absolutely fantastic. Absolutely.
And you've got a clip on it. How do you have to put? Do you have to keep getting up through the night to put bloody more water in, or
they do go through? You can't run them inside, right? Obviously, they're for outdoors only, and they'll sit on a 20 litre or a 9 litre bucket, and they do punch through the water, especially on high. But if you've got a decent source of water, I'll tell you what, they're pretty good.
So if you're sitting under your 270 awning and you're bloody sweating like a pole at a Wiggles concert, you throw that thing on you and get a bit of water spraying on yourself outside. It's not something you'd use in your swag or rooftop tent.
No. You can still use it. The like I'm using it right at the moment is just the fan function, but under the awning are absolutely fantastic.
Oh, yeah. We'll check Simon's bloody clip out on that one. Righto, chainsaws. I think everyone agrees they're a great little bit of kit there. What's our next one here, mate? Here we go. This is, and I know my son's going to say here in a minute, our aimless wanderings. Bill's going to say that the only car he had that didn't overheat had spotlights on the front of it. Now, I can tell you now, I've got filthy old King's spotlights on the front of the BT50, and can you believe this? They still work, mate. They look shitty. They looking old. They still work, and they're still going. And I had the choice of the 9-inch or the 7-inch. Well, guess what? I went the 7-inch for this exact thing. I don't know if it was. You'll probably tell me I did the wrong thing now, but I bought the 7-inch spotties for that exact reason. I thought the 9-inch are going to stop more air going into the front of the thing. So you've done it. You put it to the test. Do spotlights affect your cooling?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, right.
And look, it depends on how much overhead the vehicle has as far as extra capability of cooling. Some are more marginal than others. So if you've got a patrol, I mean, they're the old TD42s, they got a nickname for it as a kettle for a reason, and that their cooling is marginal. So you probably don't want to put anything that's going to obstruct your airflow in front of it, especially if it seems to overheat at freeway speeds. So they're actually a set of King's lights, and they're on the daughter's 80 series. She's got an 80 series as well.
Yeah.
And I think we knocked about 20% airflow off.
Is that right,
so
mate?
What you want to do is you want to maintain as much airflow through as possible, especially at freeway speeds. And they block it off. So you can do a comparison with a thing called a manometer, which is like a pressure differential gauge. And it knocked about 20%. It was about 20% worse. You want to you don't, if you can avoid it, don't put them in there. Just don't do it.
In Queensland with stuff, because I don't know what the laws are in Victoria, but you cannot have your spotlights on the top of your bull bar in Queensland. I think you can have them up on the roof and even out, but you can't mount them on top of your bull bar. It's illegal. You can't even mount a light bar on top of your bull bar in Queensland legally. I guess that's why maybe light bars are the way to go, mate. They don't block as much air as what a big bloody dirty pair of bloody 9-inch spotties do.
Well, neither of my four-wheel drives run spotlights.
Is that right?
Yeah, I'm up. I don't do a heck of a lot of night driving, to be honest. But I know, and look, it's almost like a mandatory thing: bull bar and spotlights. You know, winch, yeah, sure, no worries. Both my four-wheel drives got winches, and winches and bull bars, but none of them have spotlights, and it's just you're much better off upgrading the headlights as opposed to putting a pair of spotlights on.
And you've got a clip on upgrading halogen headlights into LED headlights or something, haven't you, on your channel?
Yeah, we did that. Actually, he's in the comment section too, Ty, the spotlighter before.
Yeah, I saw you.
In his 100 series. It can be a decent thing to do, but it can be optically not a fantastic thing to do as well.
Yeah.
The problem is headlights are designed in a certain way so that the light emits from a certain point and then reflects back off the reflector and then projects forward. Now, if you move the spot where the light comes from, then where it's reflecting to is all different, and where it projects out the front is all different, and it seems to startle oncoming traffic. Basically, it doesn't have the defined cutoff that a normal low beam does. High beams no problems, but low beams.
This bloke's on high beam, and as they're getting closer, you can see it's almost like that real bright blue light, and they've obviously done a headlight upgrade, and some of them are blinding, mate. They're almost like high beam. Probably good when you're behind the steering wheel, but when you're oncoming traffic, some of them are very bright. And I notice a lot of these new cars now seem to be coming with these blue type headlights, and they are very, very bright, especially even on low beam.
Yeah. I think as far as light technology is concerned for headlights and whatnot, we're at a precipice at the moment of where we'll be moving away from LED and into laser. So lasers are really interesting technology because it's not actually a laser that projects out onto the road. So what it does is it sends blue laser onto a piece of glass which is covered in phosphor and like a white powdery stuff. You might remember it from the old warm, the phosphor in those as well. And that then emits the white light. And there's ways you can play with a coating which is full spectrum. You might have heard of a thing called CRI. A lot of people who run halogens bang on about it a lot, which is called color rendering index. Sorry, and what that means is the spread of light. So you've all seen the Dark Side of the Moon Pink Floyd album cover, with the white light going in, the multiple light, different coloured lights coming out. So all white light consists of different amounts of multicoloured light, and all that combined makes the white light. And it depends on it's not the output of light, it's the quality of the light. So, and color CRI is one way of measuring the quality of the light, and halogen is more or less the only one at the moment that's readily available that has, it's out of 100, and they seem to sit at about 100. There's a color rendering index of halogen, whereas your average LED is usually around about 70%. But there's LEDs out there that are 95, 98% CRI, but they don't seem to put them in spotlights for some reason. I mean, I'm being lit by a 98 CRI LED by Aperture at the moment, and they're available, but they don't seem to put them in spotlights.
Well, there you go. Someone there before, I forget who it was, said, I've upgraded my headlights and gone to a light bar for that exact reason. So that because the big spotlights, you bloody, your car relies on air coming in to keep it running so you don't overheat.
And the winch relays as well. People tend to put there as well.
Yeah. I bought an ex-cop car, but the lights were amazing. Jennifer, did it still have the blue and red light on the top when you bought it? That's what I want to know. Righto. We'll get on to the next one, mate. Our next subject, winches. Now, you're not going to believe this. I put a filthy old Kings again, an old Kings Dominator X winch on the BT50 years. It must be 5 years ago at least. And I went away on the trip earlier this year. I got out there about 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago, and I hooked it up to a tree in the front yard, and I thought, I better give my winch a run. I'll keep banging on about using your winch. If you haven't used it for a while, get it out, pull it out, make sure it still works so that when you do need to use it in anger, it bloody works. I was totally expecting that winch not to work. You know, when you don't use something for a while, mate, that's usually putting stuff up like friggin' air conditioners in houses. I'm going through that problem at the moment. Summer's coming, and I've had 3 aircons shit themselves in the space of a week. But I thought this winch won't work. This will be the time where I go to test this winch, and it'll be time to get rid of the filthy old King's winch. Well, guess what? She's still going, mate. I can't kill it. I've used it a couple of times in anger, mainly pulling trees off roads and whatever. I have used it in anger once to get me out of a gnarly situation a few years ago. But the old King's winch is still going, mate. So what are you running on yours? What brand of winch?
So on the Cruiser, I'm running a Warn XPS. And on the Zook, I'm running a VRS. So I actually won that winch, so I installed that in the Zook.
Yeah, okay.
So the reason I got Warn initially was I went on a full drive trip, this before I had a winch in the car, up to Pyrenees Ranges, which is just out of Avoca in Victoria. And a mate of mine decided he was getting up this track, come hell or high water, and broke his car, broke the rear differential. So we had to winch him out. Now he had if you remember back in the day, the Tigers 11 winches.
Yes, yeah, which became Kings, I think, didn't it?
Yeah, they became Kings. So we hooked up his winch, the vehicle that was stranded, and that got him 2 or 3 meters before the thing overheated and gave up. So we got the next car at the top, and that also had a Tigers 11 winch. So I thought, well, we'll do a double line pull. It was a nasty part of the track there, so we had to do a bit of a diversion pull, a bit of a dog leg through to get to it. And so we did a double line pull, and I think that made it about 3 or 4 meters of the 30 meters we had to winch. And then a mate of mine, Darren, I haven't seen him in the comment section. Where are you, Daz? He came up with he's got a Prado, and he turned his Prado up around and had a worn in it. I remember. And he goes, "Oh no, don't worry about the double line pull. Just do a single line pull." And I went, "Yeah, it's pretty nasty, Daz." And he goes, "No, it's fine." And we skull dragged.
Simon, with the worn, was it steel or synthetic rope?
That one I vaguely remember. I think it had a steel rope on it.
Yeah.
And look, we did it in 2 or 3 hits to let the battery catch up and whatnot. But I reckon we did it in a single line pull, and it skull dragged this dead Prado that couldn't help at all. It was a busted rear differential straight up this nasty track with big rock ledges and all sorts of horrible stuff in the way, and didn't even bat an eyelid. And when we got to the top, I said, "Darren, you know what I'm buying? I'm buying myself a bloody worn." So I went out and got myself a worn, and that's how my cruiser ended up with a worn winch.
You got synthetic on there? I know a lot of the worn winches all used to come with steel cable.
They did back in the day, but I don't think you can really buy too many winches now with steel. I've got synthetic on mine. I've always run synthetic, and I don't run a hook either. I don't know why manufacturers put hooks on winches.
No, exactly right. And I'll tell you,
there's just no need for them.
I don't know if I've got a picture coming up, but we'll address it now. Exactly what you said. I took my hook off my winch and I run a soft shackle, mate. I run a soft shackle. So if I have to winch myself, I put the tree trunk, the tree protector around the tree, and the soft shackle, which is on the end of my winch rope, just goes straight through the 2 loops, and I've got no metal objects whatsoever, mate. And I was going to talk about this later. I'm a big fan of soft shackles. I know there's times where bow shackles and that have probably got their place, and for big heavy duty stuff for recovery mechanics and that, Bill in the army, they all used to use metal steel winches and metal bow shackles and that. But for us, mate, I'm just paranoid about bloody steel flying through the air when things let go, and you've got an amazing video on about that. And the thing that did the damage wasn't the snatch strap, it was the bow shackle was jamming it was wedging itself into the wood, mate. It's not the strap that's going to kill you, it's the bloody bow shackle on the end of it. So where I can now, I try and keep everything synthetic, the winch rope, everything. Even if I have to snatch someone out, my the thing I put in the toe where my 50mm tow bar is on the BT50, mate, it had sharp edges. I've actually smoothed that out now so I can put my soft shackle through there. When I strap someone, I don't do any bow shackle when I snatch strap now. Everything's soft shackle, and I've got a protector on that to give it, because sharp edges can destroy your soft shackles, as you know. So I run a soft shackle rather than a hook. Is that what you're doing, Simon?
Pretty much. I do keep a bow shackle on the end of the winch line, conventional 4.7 ton or whatever. But I'm also a rigger. One of many things I've done.
Mate, you are a jack of all trades. That's a bow shackle there, guys.
Yeah. So the only thing that I don't like with soft shackles, they're not really good for sharp corners.
No.
So it compromises the strength. They have a minimum bend radius that they should be going around, and depending on the diameter of the rope as to the minimum bend radius. So it does compromise it a little bit, but there's just there's a lack of standards amongst. I mean, if you go to the likes of ARB, Yankima, one of those guys, Sabre Off-Road, one of those guys, you're getting good stuff. You buy them off eBay, perhaps not so much. You buy a bow shackle and it'll have the rating stamped on it or embossed on it, and it's Australian standard compliant. So it's I mean, even the insides and the embossing on those things is regulated. Everything's regulated on bow shackle, and they have to test them, and they have to test it to destruction. So that it's a good one, and they're going to be great.
I wish I could.
As Matt says there, five times safety factor according to the.
Yeah, exactly right.
So you get the problem with Matt's actually a full drive instructor.
Yeah.
So he knows biz.
That's capable of doing a lot more than what the thing. I can't read that. It's too dark in this room. 4.75 or something.
Yeah.
Guys, that is a bow shackle. It's not a D shackle. Everyone calls them D shackles. It's an actual bow shackle. But mate, I'm a big believer if you're going to do snatch people out. I know people still use bow shackles and that. I cringe on Fraser Island when people are snatching people out and bogged on Fraser Island, Kagari, I should say. If people pick me up on that, they're using this to hook the snatch strap up, and there's people sticky beacon and getting in the way. It's like, get out of the bloody way when you're doing a recovery. And that's why where I can, I try and use bloody soft shackles everywhere I can. Not that I do a lot of bloody four-wheel driving anymore, mate, but when I did, those soft shackles. And I got sent a couple of soft shackles from an American company. They're called Gator Jaws, mate. I've got it here.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of those guys.
Gator Jaws were one of the original companies that came up with soft shackles. Once again, they sent me over a couple, and they also sent me a Bubba rope, which is a kinetic energy recovery rope, which is the round snatch strap, we call it. Anyway, me and my son put that to the test. It was about a $200 American-made bloody rope, and we snapped it, mate, on Phil's patrol, and we did the same pull with a filthy old bloody Ridge Rider snatch strap out of Super Cheap Auto, and it did the pull, and we ended up snapping that round kinetic energy Bubba rope. It was made by Bubba rope. Yeah, so yeah, and there's the original Gator Jaw soft shackle, which I've still got, mate. We're going to talk about that item there soon, Simon.
Oh, yeah.
I know you've got some very important information about that, which I'm it's either that or that big heavy thing there. So I'm going to get you to talk about those soon. So yeah, you're right. Steel shackles can go a lot more than what they do. But I saw a video once made of a guy who got hit by, it was in South America somewhere. Snatch strap let go, bow shackle came through the windscreen and took half his face off. It was still alive, and half his jaw was missing from a bow shackle that came through the windscreen. And I know in Australia here, in recent times, mate, people have been killed by those bow shackles coming through windscreens. That's why I'm a big fan of the soft shackles. I know soft shackles have their limit, especially with sharp edges and that. But boy, oh boy, they're a lot safer. They really are. Yeah.
It's mainly because there's no standardization amongst the rest of the equipment.
Yeah.
And there's no standards. If you get a recovery point, there's no actual Australian standards that specify anything for that recovery point. And you also have to watch MBS versus SWL. So that if you have a look on that soft shackle, any sort of tag on that soft shackle, I don't know if that one's got a tag on it or not.
Yeah, this one had the Gator Jaw has. It's 716 plasma. This one is 52,000 pounds or 23,000 kilograms or something, that one. So they've got incredible strength, mate.
Yeah, so that'll say 23,000 kilograms, and then you'll look at your the bow shackle you're holding up before, and that'll say 4.75 ton. So naturally, you think that obviously the soft shackle's stronger than the bow shackle. I mean, because what was the figure on the soft shackle again? 23,000.
It was pretty impressive. I've got some bloody shit light here, and my eyes are.
Sorry, mate. Yeah, you should borrow my specs.
Pounds, 27,500 kilos, mate.
Right.
Gator, that's a rigid edge Gator Jaw, American-made Gator Jaw. That one.
Yeah. So 27,000 or 27,500 kilograms sounds a lot more than 4.75 ton, but that is SWL that you're just holding up there, and the other one is MBS. So SWL is safe working limit or WLL, which is working load limit, and that has a factor of safety built into it because they're meant for overhead rigging, right? So they're meant for holding concrete panels above workers' heads. So they have a really good factor of safety. I think it's 6-1. So if it were 5 ton, that would mean 30 ton. So before it even deflects or damages at all, that bow shackle you're holding needs to hold at least 30 ton in order to be compliant with the Australian standards. Whereas the soft shackle you are holding, that is 27.5 ton MBS or minimum breaking strength. So if that breaks at, let's say, 27,501 kilograms, then that's compliant. So manufacturers who aren't sticking to known standards use the one that makes it sound as strong as possible. And naturally, you'd think that this soft shackle is stronger, obviously, than the bow shackle because the soft shackle is rated high when that's actually not the case.
Yeah, and there's a reason riggers still use steel bow shackles and you know, like there's a reason for that. I think if I had a concrete panel hanging above my head, I'd probably feel safer with that holding it rather than soft shackle.
Because the full driving stuff marginal, soft shackles every day.
Yeah, exactly right. For what we do, mate, doing a snatch recovery, using one of those on the winchier thing, I think they're the way to go, the soft shackles. A lot of advantages. They're light. The only disadvantage with these things is sharp edges. They do not like sharp edges. No. So you've got to take that into account. Me and Nathan Schilling did some pretty heavy recoveries when I first got the gator jaws, and I did damage a couple of them with sharp edges, but they still hung in there. And now I've got these sheaths that go over there and give them even more protection. But yeah, guys, if you haven't got the soft shackles, look into them. They're a bloody good bit of kit. They really are, and a lot safer.
You just need to make sure if you're going to use them directly on your vehicle that both your recovery points, front and back, are suitable for the soft shackles with rounded edges.
Now, here's a guy, my son Phil. Any equipment used for recovery should never be used again for lifting. 2 totally different things there, Simon. So if you're using something for recovery, never use it for rigging. I think Phil's what he's saying there. 2 totally different jobs. You got shackles for recovery, don't use them for recovery and for dogging or lifting. 2 totally separate bits of equipment there. So that's another one there, guys. If you're using bloody bow shackles for doing snatch recoveries and all that type of stuff, don't go lifting stuff overhead with them. It should be a different bow shackle. The other big advantage too, mate, I want to tell people, don't ever join 2 snatch straps together, guys, with a bow shackle. Do not ever do that, okay? Because if that's just going to become a flying missile. One of the best things these are for is joining 2 snatch straps together. That is the way to go, soft shackles. My old YouTube channel had a bloody really good clip on that one, mate. But you
can actually join them together by threading them through each other.
Yeah, you can. And then if you don't use a magazine or something, you will never get them apart again. But
yeah, correct. Yeah.
Honestly, if you want to join 2 snatch straps together, to give you that extra length, guys, that is the way to go, a soft shackle. Just have one. Have one in your car at least. Now, this is one we can all relate to, Simon. Cast iron and spun steel Baduri. What do you reckon? What's your preferred? Now, you do it, and then I'll let you know what my preferred option is.
Well, as far as dragging them around is concerned, obviously the Baduri is a lot better because it's a lot lighter. But the cast iron is more forgiving thermally, so it's less likely to create hot spots and things like that. But I mean, if you drop a cast iron pot on a rock, there goes your cast iron pot.
Exactly.
If you're struggling for GVM Baduri every time, you just need to be more careful when you're cooking with them because of hot spots and things will burn more quickly. Whereas, and because I'm such a horrendous cook, I like cast iron.
You've got a couple of cooking clips up, a red wine stew.
I do.
And what was your other one? You've got a bloody raisin damper or something there. You've got a couple
of we did a couple of damper ones, and I think there was a Thai green curry as well. And I'll tell you what, no one wants to watch me to cook food for some reason. I haven't done any of those for years.
So as a cook, you're a good electrician.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'll tell you now, when we went away on our big trip early in the year, I took the spun steel, mate. And the main reason, weight. Weight was my thing because I was so loaded up because we were originally going to go for 12 months. I was so loaded up. I'm taking the spun steel. The cast iron's too heavy. But for cooking in the backyard, and I did one last night, mate. I did a bloody pasta dish, a matriciana and pasta, and that on the Bessabrick rocket stove, and cast iron every day. If someone said, Buck, what's your preference? Cast iron every day of the week, guys. It's a bit more forgiving. I love cooking in cast iron, but when you're traveling with it, camping, and weight's a factor, that's where you go to your spun steel Baduri or your spun steel camp oven. So I think that's the way to go there. So put some comments up, guys. Cast iron or bloody... I'll tell you what, I might do a poll, Simon. What do you reckon? I'm going to do a poll.
So we've got Ty Fenwick saying cast iron for the win. Good on you, Ty. Cast iron's better for cooking than spun steel and takes a lot more care to use. Yeah, he's right about that. Is Matt Lilly. What else we got there? Cast by Lewis. And they both have a place, I reckon, by Brad. And, he's definitely right there. Though I'll tell you what, my main cast iron pot these days is enamel coated. And now I've moved to enamel. I couldn't go back to a plain cast iron pot.
Okay.
It's just so more forgiving. So when you have to take care of the seasoning in a cast iron pot, wiping it out, not using harsh abrasives on it, all that sort of stuff. Tomato dishes tend to be a bit acidic into the things if you're cooking spag bowl or something like that. And when you can treat it like it, obviously it's still heavy, but it has none of the disadvantages of having to look after the seasoning on the cast iron pot itself. I can just treat it like any other dish, and if I burn something in it, I'm out with a stainless steel scrubber and scrubbing it up.
Yeah, yeah.
So I really like the enamel ones.
I've got to re-season one of my camp ovens. A bit of the seasoning's come off it, but hey, does it bit of rice oil in there and back in the oven for an hour or whatever. They always should say, I got picked up once, Buck, you're using a metal spoon in your cast iron thing. So I try and use plastic or wood now on the thing. I know King Brown, the camp oven guy, he uses both, but he prefers cast iron as well. I think it's a bit more forgiving there. And I don't know, there's just something about cooking over a fire with cast iron. Cast iron camp ovens are, I think, better for damper. I don't think you burn the arse of the damper as much in a cast iron.
Yeah, they're more forgiving, especially if your attention's diverted with the kids or whatever you're doing, and you walk away for a minute with a spun steel. There goes dinner. With the cast iron, it's a little bit more forgiving.
Yeah, exactly right. Mr. Bullet over in Western Australia, Buck Cook, Tutsiana, Boobaroony. Not quite.
I have no idea what that is.
It was a Matruziana, it was called. It was with chorizo and bacon and like a pasta sauce, and that bloody beautiful, mate. Yeah. Buck's rigged his. No, I haven't, Ty. I just said cast iron or spun steel. That's the new way. It's up there. Let me know if you can see it. I haven't rigged anything, Ty. I know. I've told everyone what I prefer. I prefer cast iron, but when weight's an issue, there's nothing wrong with spun steel. But as Simon said, don't take your eye off her or she'll be all over. You'll burn the arse out of the bloody stew. And the big thing with spun steel, lower heat and more supervision, more stirring with spun steel, especially with a damper. With a damper with spun steel, you only want a tiny little bit of heat underneath and most of your heat on top, as you do with a cast iron. But with cast iron, you can probably put a few more coals under cast iron and less chance of burning the arse out of your damper. So, yeah, Phil the Maniac reckons spun steel for him. As I said, everything's got pros and cons, mate, hasn't it? Everything's got advantage and disadvantage. It really has. Righto, what's our next topic? We're getting through them. Diesel heaters. Righto. I never put a diesel heater in the caravan. When I was down in Tasmania, I was thinking, wish I had a diesel heater. I tell you what, when you can't buy someone with a diesel heater, you friggin' know, because they are noisy buggers. They are noisy with the kit. And you know what we did when we were on 240 volts, mate? We bought a little $30 fan heater from Bunnings, and that thing kept that caravan toasty warm when we were in a caravan park down in Victoria and Tassie. Little $30 fan heater.
Yeah, if I'm on 240 volt, even in accommodation, I'll take it. I got a little Canberra 10 amp, 2,400 watt heater that goes with us everywhere.
Yeah, they work, mate. If you got 240 there, I had a 2,000 watt inverter or 2,000 watt inverter in the caravan. Probably could have run that little fan heater just to warm the caravan down before we go to bed. But I was going to get a diesel heater, mate. They were installed like a Webasto, a good brand, installed. I think it was about $3,000, mate. I just couldn't justify the cost, especially I live in far north Queensland. I thought, be good in Tasmania. I'll probably never go back there again, and I'll never use the diesel heater. And when I do go to use it, it probably won't work because I haven't used it in so long. Other people are saying, get an eBay one. $300 an install, or get a mate to install it. What are your thoughts on that, mate? The eBay diesel heaters and installing them yourselves. I'm mainly talking about safety wise now.
Yep. So look, like anything, there's good and bad that comes out of China. I mean, there's lots of rubbish stuff that comes out of there. There's also, technologically leading stuff like DJI. No one else in the drone sphere even gets close to touching DJI, and they're a Chinese company. Bamboo printers, 3D printers, they've just taken over. Everyone was Prusa. That one's actually this guy you just highlighted now, Matt. So that's actually his heater that was in the video. Yeah. And as far as I know, it's still running properly. I think I was camping with Matt a couple of months ago now. And I could hear it tick, tick, ticking in his camper. But there's a couple of ways you can set them up, either depending on the model you have, either using like a step system or by frequency. And I believe Matt uses a frequency. You might be able to correct me in the comment section. And it's very unobtrusive. If you're more than 3 or 4 meters away, you really can't hear it.
Yeah. Timmy Lord saying heaters, haven't needed one for 30 years. Tim's a far north Queenslander too.
Right. Yeah, I'm a Victorian. We need heaters.
It's incredible. It's funny. Justin Dillon's a fiery down there in Victoria, and I was talking to Justin one night. I said, "Oh, mate, it's a bit hot here. I've got the aircon on." He goes, "Mate, we got the open fire cranked up down here." It's just amazing the difference in Australia, the difference of weather, isn't it? You down there, and what is the weather like in Vic at the moment, mate? Is she starting to warm up a bit?
Oh, it wasn't too bad today. I think it was completely overcast. But I think it was 17 or 18 degrees, which is probably freezing for you. It's always short.
We're over 30 today. I think it was going to get up to 35 this weekend, and it's not even summer yet. But the humidity hasn't kicked in yet because the wet season hasn't. As soon as the rain starts, mate, and that humidity kicks in, it's bullshit. As I said to you on the phone the other day, we don't pull our underpants up and down in North Queensland. We roll them up and down because of the sweat.
Yeah.
Bullshit, mate. Yeah. Anthony Wicks. Now, this is a good bit of kit that I wasn't going to talk about tonight. Jack Turtle gave me a 12-volt electric blanket, and, mate, they are bloody good bits of kit, and they don't draw that much power. They only draw between 3 and 5 amps an hour, and it's not like you need to have it on all night. Just put her on for an hour before you go to bed. And do you use one of them at all?
Here's a confession. So back in the day when I first started full driving, doing the full drive instructor bit, and we stay in a bit of a hut up at the property. We got a 380 acre property, I think it is, in the foothills of the high country. Oh, and I'd stay inside my swag inside the hut because it's warmer. All right, and the other instructors were all ragging me out because I was just on blankets or whatever inside the hut. And as soon as winter comes around, I start seeing the swag start multiplying. And it gets absolutely bitterly cold up there, you know, June and July. It's regularly in the negatives. And so I started bringing hot water bottles up there. What's he saying? Yeah, right. Right. Yeah, no, I'm getting to that, Matt. I'm getting to that, Matt. And so I got myself this power pack thing. I ran off a car battery. I think it was a projector model, power hub, the projector power hub, and it's got a 300 watt full sine wave inverter built into it. And I thought, I got the ARB double swag. And I thought, you know, probably a double electric blanket, normal 240 volt powered might work in that. And it works like an absolute champion. Let me tell you, to heat up the swag before you go to bed.
Yeah.
And one day I was up there with Matt, and the cheeky bugger, when I went down and had a shower, unplugged an electric blanket at the mattress end. I was thinking, what's wrong with this thing? Why isn't it drawing any current? I've just tried this thing. It was starting to heat up, and now the bloody thing's not working. They're all sniggering around the corner. You know,
nice stitch up.
Yeah, I tried to zip tie him into his swag.
Bloody Mike Blakely's over in. She's starting to cool down over in the States. Nice 3 degrees. I don't know if that's Celsius or Fahrenheit, Mike. But yeah, she'll be starting to. She's warming up in Australia. You know, she's getting cold in the US, especially up there in the more northern states. I couldn't live in the northern states of the United States, or where Slacken is in Toronto, in Canada, -30, and that Slacken gets up to work in the morning, got to dig his car out of the snow and go to work in -30. How do you do it? That'd kill me, mate. If it gets under 20 here in North Queensland, we think we're in Antarctica, mate. We start bloody running for the jumpers and the blankets and that. She gets down under 20 here, people start bloody having meltdowns. Oh, that's Celsius. I enjoyed the cool weather when I went down there, mate. Tassie got very cold about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Very cold in Tassie, but the days were nice, mate. You'd walk around, it'd only be 17 degrees during the middle of the day, but it was beautiful. Like, it was still shorts and t-shirt weather. But we couldn't crack it for good weather in Victoria. We were there for a couple of months, I guess. Could not crack it for some decent days in a row, mate, in Vic. Geez, we had some shit weather there earlier this year. You know, the Great Ocean Road and all that type of stuff, mate. Just could not crack it for some nice days. Cold and drizzly rain, but you know, you can't control the weather. And I said to Rob, I don't know how the Vics. I was watching the news every night, and they're going, a maximum of 14 tomorrow, and I'm thinking that's lower than our minimums in North Queensland. Like, how do the Vics do it down here? How do they? And it's not just for a couple of months of the year. It's for a good chunk, mate. It's like you just have a big winter down there. It's not just for 3 months. It's a big winter.
Yeah, look, it does get cool, but you just put more jumpers on. I suppose
it's what you're used to, mate. I know a lot of people come up here and go, oh, I don't know how you put up with the heat. It's just the way it is. Righto. Now, this was a very, very bloody. I watched this one today, mate. We're going to talk about this item here. You did some extensive testing. Everyone says if you're going to run a snatch strap or a winch, have a dampener on there. Safety blanket dampener. You did some extensive testing, and the final thing you did is throw it over your shoulder. Tell us a bit about what your thing of recovery blankets was, or dampeners as we know
them. Through Full Drive Victoria, we used to go to the instructor updates, and there'd be a lot of debate around blankets coming in. And at that time, they were just starting to bring in a mandation for recovery snatch straps and the labelling. Right? Yes. Prior to that, there was nothing. There's still no testing in the standard, but there is, which is better than nothing. They have to have a label in there. It has to say how to use the snatch strap, basically. And one of the things that says in there is you need to put a weight on it, like a dampener or a heavy jacket or something like that. And knowing the forces that are created, the kinetic energy forces that are created in the snatch strap, it just didn't sit well with me that a 3 or 5 kilogram dampener, even one filled with sand, would actually do anything at all. And look, some of them were saying, put one in the middle third, and then others were saying put one at either end. And then I was speaking to some guys over in South Australia, and they were saying, oh, no, we use chains. And I kept saying, has anyone tested anything to find out? Because I couldn't find anything. Has anyone tested anything? So it turns out no one had. So I thought, well, I'll give it a crack. And set up down in Wombat State Forest. And we loaded up Snatch traps to 4 ton a load, which is we consider a heavy recovery.
Yeah.
And we let them rip with 4 ton on them using a release mechanism. And we tried the various, we tried stages up to 4 ton, and then we just stuck to 4 ton with the various combinations. We tried 2 dampeners without weight. We tried dampeners with weight. And we tried one in the middle, one up either end, to find out if there was any effective combination at all. So the one dampener in the middle does nothing. Right.
Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely nothing. And when you put one dampener in the middle with weight in it, so we were using, I think it was in the pocket on the side, I did weigh them up. I was putting in bags of sand.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
I think they were a couple of kilograms each. So it would have been about 5 kilograms in total. And all they did was then, because of the force in the Snatch trap, it just tore the winch dampener to shreds and then kept on going almost as fast as it was before. I think, what was it getting on for? I think the shackle was hitting the backboard that we're protecting the tree with about 350 kilometers an hour or somewhere in there. Wow. You got to remember that's accelerating from 0. So they stretch out about 20%. So a 9 meter Snatch trap stretched out to slightly less than about 12 meters.
Yeah,
accelerated from 0 to the backboard, and by the time it reached the backboard, it was doing in excess of 200 mile an hour.
Yeah, you said that 300 and something kilometers an hour. That bow shackle was hitting, which you said is faster than a Ferrari car or a drag racer, mate. So
everything accelerates faster than a top fuel dragster.
I'll tell you another guy who did some very, very good testing on Snatch straps doing damage to dummies, and that was Ronnie Dahl. Did one a few years ago. Very, very good. Ronnie did some testing, and he had dummies there showing what one of these hitting a dummy, and it was just taking dummies' heads off and whatever. Ronnie did a good one showing how dangerous recovery should be, and that's why I probably don't even worry about a blanket now, because everything I use is synthetic, mate. The rope, this soft shackle and that, I don't even use a dampener blanket, and by the sounds of it, they don't do a lot anyway.
No, they don't do anything. The only effective thing we found was what the South Australian guys recommended was a couple of meters out from the end, put we had a couple of drag chains, so 8 mil and 9 meters long, and tied it to it, and that was that effectively dampened the strap. But the problem is, no one's going to do that.
No, not chains and that. Yeah, as Phil said there, the idea is to keep the broken strap as low as possible, so that the strap goes under your vehicle rather than hitting your windscreen, which I guess it
makes zero difference to the trajectory.
Is that right? It didn't.
No, it's not. It doesn't impart enough force onto the strap. We're talking about tons of force here versus maybe a 5 kilogram dampener. It just does nothing.
Well, if anyone wants to see that and see you in action actually doing the testing, look for that thumbnail on Simon's YouTube channel, guys, and he does some very thorough testing, and you can actually see the damage that one of these hitting that backboard, mate. Boy, oh boy, that was scary. That was scary.
Yeah, and that was I think it was 75 mil pine.
Yeah,
and it just got stuck. The pullback board after we finished with it was broken to pieces because it had been smashed into that many times, and actually it stuck the bit where you turn it on the end there of the pin. It stuck it into the wood deep enough that it just impaled, and we had trouble getting it out.
That bit there. Hey, we've all started camping before fridges and lithium batteries and all that came in. We all went camping and we all used to use an esky with ice in there. Now, should you drain your cooler when the ice starts melting? I always, once a day, used to drain the water out so that I only had ice in there. Should we drain our eskies? Yes or no?
Oops, what's the comment section saying?
I don't know. We're about to they haven't started commenting on that yet.
Okay. Look, initially when I thought about it, and I still think the answer is a little bit, it depends. So
Mr.
thermally, yeah, you're replacing something that's cold and has a decent amount of thermal energy in it, containing that low temperature in the water with warm air. So that's not great. So you want to keep the water in there, but if you've got your meat and stuff in there,
yeah,
you don't want that floating around inside all the water. So there's if you've got drinks that are waterproof, obviously you want to keep the water in there. But if you have meats and stuff, even though it's going to be better thermally to leave the water in there, you don't want it floating around in there.
No, that's right. So thermally, you did some testing, mate, and it was beneficial to leave the water in there.
Yep.
Okay,
Definitely.
so if you only got your beers in there, leave the water in, guys. If you've got your meat and your sausages, probably drain the water out. Hey, one thing I nearly forgot. I'm going to go back to the poll and close that off. Cast iron or spun steel?
What was the result?
82%. Now, I a bloody idiot. Cast iron or spun steel, and they only had a yes or no. No, cast iron 82%, I think, and 18% no. I presume that they were going for cast iron.
Yeah,
I didn't really word that. Cast iron or spun steel, and I gave them a yes or no option. Oh dear, oh dear.
That's right. The one that really,
I think 82% preferred the cast iron.
Oh, righto. The one that really got me though was and still annoys me to this day, to be honest, is Thermos flasks. So I've been using Thermos flasks. I know a lot of people like the jet boils and stuff, and that you see them at Morning Smoko. They're out with their jet boils on their little tables in the back of their cars and whatnot, and they're great. But at morning breakfast time, I cook up an extra billy of water and I put it in a Thermos flask, and that's what I use for lunch, because you can just pour it out, and if the kids want 2-minute noodles or whatever, and you make yourself a cuppa or whatever. And I've been preheating those things for years, and it made logical sense that if you preheat the things, and then pour that water out and then put in fresh hot water, the thing's already warm, and the water that you're not putting in there won't have to warm up the Thermos flask itself.
Yeah.
And I was taught by my parents to do it that way. And I actually asked them afterwards, I said, so I asked my mum, and I said, so why were you preheating your Thermos flask? She goes, well, that's what my mum used to do back in the day with the glass ones. It made logical sense, and I thought, I should test it. Turns out it makes absolutely no difference to performance at all.
Well, that's surprising.
I've been doing that for decades.
If you preheat your Thermos flask, tip that little bit of hot water out and then put it in, I thought you would have got an extra 2 hours or whatever. So it didn't make any difference, mate.
Not a single centigrade. I got a Thermocouple Pro, the Type K Thermocouple, jammed it in there and did tests back to back, and absolutely zero performance difference. And also with cold. So I tried leaving it open and the lid as well, open in the freezer overnight. So it got down to, minus 18 or whatever it was I got on the FLIR camera, and then put cold drink in it as well and tried that as well. Again, zero performance difference.
Well, there you go, because my dad even preheated the teapot. He'd preheat the teapot, swirl it around, tip it out, then put the tea leaves in, and then the hot water. He believed in preheating the teapot even. So maybe that was good.
I think they might be for not burning the tea leaves or something. I don't know if that makes a difference, but I can tell you 110% Buck and everyone in the comment section, don't bother preheating your thermos flask or pre-chilling your thermos flask. It makes no difference at all.
And you've got
I'm still kicking myself
about up for that. So that's another thing.
Yeah,
good stuff. So we've come up with that one. If your meat's there, drain the water out. If it's only thing, it doesn't really make a difference. We've already talked about that, charging our 18-volt batteries up. I've got the Ryobi 12-volt charger, and it works an absolute treat. And I think these batteries are the way to go out bush. They really are. And
they are.
I only had it. So people were saying, Buck, get the Ryobi 12-volt charger. There's a couple of different types. Get the 12-volt charger. And I took it away on our caravan trip at the start of the year, and I used that rather than the 240. Plugged it into the old cigarette thing, and it worked an absolute treat and worked just as quick as the 240 one. So, rocket stoves.
Right, good. Yeah.
Right.
Quite this good, actually. They're a bit of messing around and they're not real light, especially that one that I welded.
Those steel ones.
They work surprisingly well.
They do. They get a lot of heat. That Besser brick one last night, mate, I get a lot of heat out of the cracks the top Besser brick. But the old rocket stove I make out of 4 Besser bricks and 2 caps works really well. Scotty Bruce made the Gidgee Gorilla a rocket stove similar to that. And the only problem, Scotty was just starting off. Ken said the shaft on it, that where the flame comes up, is probably a few inches too long. He said if it was a little bit shorter, you've got to really keep the wood up to it to keep the heat going. He said if it was a little bit shorter like yours one there, it'd probably be a lot hotter. So rocket stoves been around for a long time, mate. They're a simple little thing. They work well. What's your thoughts on
them? I do use them occasionally. The great thing about a rocket stove is they're extremely economical on wood.
Yes,
in comparison with them. And I assume it's the same up your end of the country as it is down here. When you go to an actual campground, you can't find any firewood. You either got to bring it in yourself, but what you can find is a lot of little stuff. And if you just want to cook food on a pot and you got a rocket stove, well, you can't put big stuff in a rocket stove anyway. Yeah. So they're absolutely fantastic by that. And if you've got a flap on the inlet, you can vary the temperature as well. So if you're boiling water, you can obviously leave it right open. Yeah, but if you're simmering something, you can shut the flap and just about all the way, and you get a nice simmering fire.
And that's a good thing. The Besser brick one I used last night for my cook-up, just kindling. You only need kindling. You don't need big chunks of wood and that. And speaking of rocket stoves, mate, I haven't even opened it yet. I got a Kelly kettle.
Right, I did see that in your Facebook.
It's basically a rocket stove that boils water, and I've also got the attachment that can go on top of it. It's so you can put a saucepan or a frying pan on. So I can also use that to do cook-ups, mate, while I'm boiling the water at the same time. So that's going to be my next one. It basically works on the same principle as a rocket stove, the old Kelly kettle.
Yeah, it should be really fast to boil water, I guess, too.
Yeah. It's I can't wait to try that out. So yeah, no, it's the old rocket stoves. They're a good bit of kit. They really are. And if you're out there and you got 4 old Besser bricks sitting around and a couple of Besser brick caps, give the rocket stove a go in your backyard, guys. It's really good. Righto, recovery gear.
Right, the old hierarchy of recovery. And you would have seen it so many times, Buck, is when anyone gets stuck, the first thing they run for is a snatch strap or kinetic rope. When realistically, that's probably the very last thing they should be running for.
Yeah.
And the reason they do it is because it's fast, it's convenient, and nice and easy to do. Whereas the first thing you should really do, and you'd be surprised how many people I've recovered doing this, is to make sure the vehicle is, in four-wheel drive. If it's a full-time four-wheel drive, is your center diff locked? Have you lowered your tire pressures? That's my second port of call. When I go up to give someone a hand, yeah, exactly, tire pressures. when I go up to give someone a hand to help them get unstuck, I grab my tie deflator and I walk up the hill or whatever the case is to go give them a hand. First thing I'll say, is it in four-wheel drive, mate? Check if it's got freewheeling hubs, check the hubs are locked, see if it's got diff locks, things like that. My second thing is to ask them what the tire pressures are at, because most of the time, probably, I'd say most of the time, you can recover a person by just lowering their tire pressures, and that goes for hard, high country, sand, snow, whatever, and especially for if you really need to get out of there, incoming tide, things like that.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to go down to single digits, and drive forward. Go down to 8 or 10 psi or whatever, and drive forward until you're above the high tide mark, and then reinflate your tyres.
Mate, saw it on Fraser Island a few times. Bloke stuck in the sand on Fraser, and you go, "Have you let your tyres down, mate?" "Yeah." And you check their tyre pressures, they're on 30 still. They let them down from 38 to 30. No, mate, get them down to 18 or 15, and then you might have a chance. So a lot of people don't know about it. That's one of the best bloody recovery things you can have. You don't have to have all the fancy stuff. An old bloody pencil gauge, you can still let your tyre down with that bit there. It might be slow, only doing one tyre at a time. Let your tyre down, check your pressure. If you need to go down to 18, that there, guys, costs about $3 from Super Cheap Auto. Get a good brand one. That there can get you out of trouble, or even a bloody stick. Now, tyre deflators, mate, there's a lot out there. The Indeflate, and you've got a bloody absolute beauty in that. That's just a Ridge Rider one. I don't particularly like these ones because they take the valve stem out of your tyre. I've used it, but I'm not I know ARB the ARB one was the big one of that. My favourite, and I've used them for years, mate, are once again, everything's got pros and cons. The Storms, they come in a set of 4, Aussie made, preset to 18. You can change the settings on them. I did have a second set, and one of them stuffed up. I had one set to 18, which is what they come preset at, and then you can stuff around with them. And I had a set for 28. So 38 on the road, 28 on corrugations, and that 18 in the soft sand and that. So I was running 2 sets of Storms. I bought a set of those Camp Boss ones. How'd
you go?
Dial them to 18 or 28. The concept of those is very, very good. It would have been even better if they worked, mate. They were a piece of shit, the Camp Boss ones.
Okay. I've heard varying kind. I did try a brand new set off a mate of mine, Brad, and I found that particular set pretty accurate and reasonably fast. And but I've heard I think they had some quality control issues.
Yeah.
And lots of other people have said they're all over the place. I can't get consistent results. The calibration goes quickly.
I threw mine out. I'd preset them at 18, and I did a lot of testing in the shed. Had me tyre on 38. I dial it into 18, screw it on, air had come out, and then when it'd stop, I'd put this on there. It was nowhere near 18, mate. Like, they were all over the shop. They were all over the shop, and they went in the bin. I must have got a dodgy set, and I've also heard that there's hit and miss on those Camp Boss ones. An Aussie company that was making the same thing contacted me years ago and said, "Mate, we're bringing out this new tyre deflator. You can preset. You can dial it down and say I want 18 or I want 15." And they never ended up getting back to me. I don't know if they got it up and running. And next thing you know, Camp Boss had the same concept come out.
Right.
And he's good at copying stuff, that bloke, let me tell you. I've got a few good stories about that.
Yeah, there's a few out there.
Yeah, he's good at copying stuff.
I honestly, I tend to use the ARB quick deflator primarily.
Which is a similar thing to that one, mate.
Yeah, similar thing to that one. Though, my boy was an avid push bike rider and used to like jumping him back. He's in his early 20s now, and he'd go through tube after tube on his push bike.
Yeah.
And every time I'd have to change out a push bike tuber when he did it. I'd save the valves, and I've still got dozens of the things left. So yeah, they can look, especially if you're not overly familiar with them, and especially if you're running sand and getting sand in your valves and stuff. They can shoot out. If they shoot out, you'll never find it again. So I keep a couple of dozen in my string repair kit.
Yeah,
and on the occasion, one hits into a low earth orbit, you got another one you can just grab and throw in the hole, and you're good to go.
Yeah, no, it's good. Probably your top 3 bits of recovery kit, mate. There's a lot of good recovery stuff out there. Your top 3 bits of kit. If you're going 4-wheel driving, what would your top 3 be?
Okay, so I'll go in ascending order. Most important last.
Yeah.
Probably traction boards, the likes of Treads or Max Tracks or something.
Very good item, aren't they? They really are.
Yep. A second most important would be a deflator.
Yep.
And the first most important, a lot of people forget to engage, is your brain.
Yeah.
So I keep saying it, like I say, unless there's an incoming tide, if you're stuck, you're going to be in exactly the same position now than you will be 10 minutes from now or half an hour from now. So there's no need to rush, unless it's something like an incoming tide, or you on the precipice of rolling over or something like that. Secure the vehicle and then have a think about it. Was it a mate of mine over in the States, Bill Burke? Patience, plan, and practice. So have some patience about you.
Yeah.
Affect a plan. So think about what you're going to do, and have a backup plan. But think about what you're going to do, and then put it into practice.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was Jack Absalom, mate, said when he gets stuck, first thing he does is boil the billy and has a think about what he's going to do.
Great idea.
Exactly right. Yeah. Yeah. Traction boards, mate, one of those things, a way to let your tyres down, a way to pump them back up, obviously. And another important bit too, mate, is if you're talking Max Tracks, saw so many people on Fraser Island, Gary, I should say, trying to get out of soft sand and that when they're getting snatched or on traction boards, and they didn't turn their bloody traction control off. You got to, in the sand, their traction control would start doing the and it stopped their momentum. So in the sand, you've got to turn your traction control off. Otherwise, your traction control, when you're trying to get out on traction boards and that. Have you ever noticed that at all?
So what you need to be mindful of, and this is vehicle dependent. So there's ESC, right, which is electronic stability control, and depends on what it's called in a vehicle. Like in the wife Suzuki, it's called ESP, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
And VDC in the Toyotas and various things, that needs to be turned off on sand or anytime you're off-road. Anytime you're not on a hard surface, you need to turn the ESC off. Traction control, it depends on the type of traction control. So you have 2 main forms of traction control. You have brake traction control, where it's physically grabbing the brake, and that stuttering you were saying. And there's also engine traction control. So engine traction control will either cut spark in a petrol engine to bring the revs of the engine down, or it might cut fuel in, say, a diesel to bring the engine revs down again. So you're applying less power to the wheels to help you get going again.
Yeah.
Brake traction control, if you can independently control that, not all cars can, there's never a bad scenario to have your brake traction control on. But sometimes you can only turn off your brake traction control and your ESC at the same time, your electronic stability control. Yeah. And if that's the case, then you're much better off turning them both off.
Yeah. I try to recover people on Fraser, mate, and they get going, and then the traction control would start coming in when the wheels started spinning, and they'd lose their momentum. And as soon as we turn their traction control off, they could keep their momentum going and get them out of the problem. I don't know what kind of traction control that was, but I'd just say get your traction control off, and we get them out every time. So long handle shovels, another bloody good one too.
Oh yeah, absolutely fantastic. Yeah, so the Max
shovel on your roof rack
does a sort of an impersonation in sand of a shovel, but yeah, sometimes you just need to get right underneath the rear differential and clear out the rubbish. And long handle shovel out there.
I mean, you could talk for hours on recovery gear, but just have a think about it. Do it safely is the other important one there. Here we go. Just quickly, we've been going 2.25 hours. I'll speed her up a bit, mate. Otherwise, people will start falling.
That's all right, buddy.
All the picks down there will be after their bedtime, mate. Now, pre-filters, yes or no? I don't run one. I've been to the Cape a few times, and I've often thought, geez, I wish I had one of those bloody foam things over the front of me snorkel, because there's a lot of dust going down into the air filter. And when you get up to Bamaga and you bloody take your air filter out, she's filthy with red dirt, mate. Pre-filters, yes or no?
I say yes, but depends. So the cyclonic ones, so that round one you had the picture up before, they're only really designed up to about 30 mile an hour. They're primarily designed for slow moving earth equipment, but they actually flow not too badly. But the problem is, if you're doing a lot of slow work and then you don't clear it out, and all of a sudden you start going at freeway speeds, well, it's going to pick up, because of the cyclonic action in it, it's going to pick up all the light dust off the top and suck it straight into your air filter. So they need to be cleaned out on a regular basis.
Okay.
They do a really good job. The ones over the top of a normal ram head, they do a decent enough job, and they don't restrict the airflow that much. Though I found the ones that fit inside the snorkel like a sock,
yes,
they really restricted performance. They weren't very good at all.
Well, there you go. My question was, if you put one of those foam ones over the outside, how much does it restrict the air getting sucked in? So they are okay, but just keep them.
Yeah, no, they're fine.
Give them a clean.
Obviously, when it clogs up, it's going to restrict more, but they're not too bad.
Yeah, okay. Now, this one caused a stir in a four-wheel drive magazine, mate. Forward and back. I've seen a lot of the young fellas, and they're probably thinking is probably because the snorkel sucks the air in. You're not relying on the wind going in. And one, they probably think it looks cool. Two, they probably think that it does keep the dust out, mate. Is that why do people put them on backwards? And is it beneficial?
I'll tell you what, this video has probably caused me more drama. This topic and video has probably caused me more drama than any other topic or video I've created in my life. I've had a number of cease and desists, and manufacturers unhappy asking for public apologies, and but there was a similar vein amongst them, and the fact was it was all small manufacturers, and nothing against smaller manufacturers, but they hadn't done the R&D that the larger manufacturers had done. So you'll notice the likes of when you think of ram heads, you think of Safari, which are actually based down here in Victoria. Yeah. And you'll notice they don't offer a rearward facing snorkel. Why is that? Because they don't bloody work properly. And I tested it and proved that they flow horrendously. And that was with an open end. But you'll notice of late, people seem the smaller manufacturers, the small fabrication houses, are seeming to place like end caps on them with cut out, with an insignia or whatnot, and that's going to make the flow even more turbulent and worse. So I really don't know. Just don't do it. They don't flow well. Not only are they loud as all get out, which is fantastic for some people, they really enjoy that, and that's fine. Yeah, the young blokes. They perform badly from an airflow point of view. They're not radiused on the outlet. The outlet is too close to the bend. It's not the fact that it's facing backward. That makes not a lot of difference. It's the shape, and the shape on those stainless steel ones is horrendous for airflow. Yeah.
Well, there you go. And you did the testing. A couple of manufacturers in a magazine didn't quite like what you said.
No.
Yeah. But you back everything up you do with your testing, mate. Like, you don't it's not your opinion. You actually test things.
Yeah, I mean, argue with the data, really.
You've got the data to back you up on what everything you do.
So it's just And look, I know some of the, especially younger crowd, like the look of them, and that's fine. But you got to understand that you're making when you're putting on a rearward facing stainless steel snorkel, you're making the performance worse.
Okay, and Landy Smith, and this is what a lot of people were probably thinking, what about if you're in a convoy going up the Cape York, dusty Peninsula Development Road, you've got a rear-facing snorkel, the dust. Is it more beneficial for dust, at least, having a rear-facing snorkel?
So I haven't tested this, to be honest, but chatting with the guys from Safari, what they tell me is, and I've seen it with rain, so the heavy matter, so that's particulate matter in the form of dust or whatever, or rain in water, it hits the back wall and then gets ejected out the back. And look, I've seen it with rain, in heavy rain. We get a bit of that down here in Victoria. And you can see it 100 kilometres an hour. The slot's out the back and it's just pouring out. And I drove with a forward-facing snorkel, actually in that Zook, through a couple of hours of really torrential rain at freeway speed. So probably about, it was really heavy, so probably 90 kilometres an hour, 80 kilometres an hour for a couple of hours. And as soon as I got to where I was heading down in Raglan there in Victoria, pulled over because it stopped raining by then, and I checked the bottom of the airbox, and because I'd sealed it up in the process of putting that snorkel in, and there was maybe half a teaspoon of water in the bottom of it. That's it.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I think the BT50 in the bottom of the airbox, the air filter's up above that. There's a rubber valve there, but I think it's a one-way valve that's designed to let water out, but not let water back in. That's the way they're supposed to be, isn't it?
Most of them have something similar. So the Land Cruiser's got something similar. The Zook had something similar.
Yeah.
But if you're running a ram head snorkel, just silicon them up.
Yeah, too easy. Righto. So that one caused a bit of controversy. Forward and backwards. There you go. They look ridiculous facing backwards, I must admit. Catch can. I don't run one on the BT50, and I'm thinking of getting a manifold. I hate to think how dirty it is inside. Should we run a catch can? And if you have an older vehicle like me, is it too late for me now to put a catch can on? Would it be beneficial? What's your thoughts on a catch can? This is a big subject that yes and no, and depends on who you speak to. What's your thoughts on it, Simon?
Any modern car that's got exhaust gas recirculation or crankcase gas recirculation, yes. I'm talking about diesel engines. Diesels are designed to run dry in the inlet manifold.
Yeah.
And because of emissions, they plumb back the crankcase gas. Even something as old as my Land Cruiser, which is a 95 model, has got crankcase gas recirculation. So it's getting oil vapor from the crankcase that's contained within the air that's being plumbed back into the inlet manifold, and that gets coated onto the inside of the inlet manifold. And then you've got exhaust gas recirculation. So that what they do is they plumb back a little bit of the exhaust, and this is not as old as the Land Cruiser, my Land Cruiser, but more modern cars. Your car definitely have it.
Yeah.
Is they plumb back a little bit of the exhaust back into the inlet manifold and reburn it. The problem with that is you got an oil vapor mixing with particulate matter from the diesel soot, and it coats the inside of the inlet manifolds.
Yeah.
So you can't legally shut down the exhaust gas recirculation system, and you can't legally shut down. Sorry?
A lot of people do block their EGRs.
Yeah, that's what I said, legally.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't shut that down legally. I know there are some mobs out there who will, put restrictor plates in or to actually turn it off. I know that ones in the Toyota can be turned off by certain tuners. If you just get the oil out of the air that's coming from the crankcase gas, you can then pass the particulate matter from the exhaust back through the engine, and it won't coat the inside of your manifold nearly as much.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
I think I'll make manifold clean on mine.
Yeah, so the problem is, 200 series of VDJ and the 200 series and 79 series are particularly bad for that. But the problem is that, and it's good that we've got emission controls. We need that, But the problem is these emission controls are causing other issues, and one of them is coking up of the inside of your inlet manifold. And as long as your catch can flow enough air, so it's got to be able to meet the demands and not cause pressure in the crankcase. Otherwise, you'll blow oil past the seals and stuff.
That's what ADG 69 here, NP 300. They're saying it can blow the rear main seals, cause rear main seals to fail. So
yeah, so if they don't flow well enough, you'll get issues like that.
Yeah. So, buddy, I've gone this long without one. Yeah. Winch hooks, we talked about that. We got rid of ours, mate, and throw a bloody soft shackle on. I think that's the way to go, just quietly.
It is.
We're running out of time. We could talk about this for hours. We all know, mate, AGMs and lead acid, as far as running fridges and that, are they a thing of the past? Is it lithium has come? Everyone said when lithium comes down in price, I'm going to bloody get a lithium and go from AGM. I think we're at that point now. That's my honest opinion. I think bloody AGM for running fridges and all that are a thing of the past. They're heavy. You can't run them down as low. Lithium's the way to go now, mate, isn't it?
Yeah, we're at a price point now where you can get a decent lithium. Maybe not top of the line, but a decent lithium for the same sort of money as you can get a good AGM for. So realistically, there's no good reason to go for a lead acid or AGM anymore. But for your house battery, it's dead. Yeah, essentially.
I couldn't go back to AGMs anymore after having lithium. I just think they're the way to go. When they were $2,000 top, I could understand why people were staying with AGM, but Speaking of lithium,
they're not bad. They're not terrible. I was pleasantly surprised. The old King's lithium.
You did some extensive testing on this, and you've got a clip up, mate. And the old King's and I'll tell you now, I went into King's store the other day. I actually bought one just to have in the shed. It's not in the BT50 or anything, or an iTech World one in there for $400 and something. Yeah. And after seeing your clip, mate, and you said that they, for a bottom end battery, they came up trumps.
I was pleasantly surprised.
There you go.
Now, out there. Yeah, look, they sell their fair deal of rubbish products, but the blue top batteries isn't one of them. The only thing I didn't like about the battery was usually lithium cells have a little QR code on top, and when you scan that QR code, you can tell various things. So you can tell who was the original manufacturer, the data manufacturer, the original capacity, and some really good information you can get from those QR codes. Yeah. Now, the QR codes were scrubbed from the cells inside that battery. Now, there's usually a couple of reasons people do that. The reason they scrub the cells. Thanks, Matt. Yeah, no, you're right. It did hurt me to make it. Not as much as a treble buddy, but this one did hurt. So the reason they scrub the QR codes is they're selling secondhand cells. So lithium cells reduce in capacity with age, just like any battery. So what they'll do is they'll buy a 130 amp hour cell, the original user will, and they'll get rid of it when it's down to 110 amps or something like that. Then they'll on-sell it onto the market. And then the less reputable manufacturers will then get these cells and they'll sell it as a 100 amp cell or something like that. And everyone's then pleasantly surprised that it's got 110 amps or whatever in it. But it was a 130 amp cell initially. Now, that's one reason. The other reason could be a contractual issue. Maybe perhaps they were made for another manufacturer, and then the contract doesn't allow the original equipment manufacturer to have the QR codes on there or something like that. So I'm not saying they were secondhand cells, but it's not very endearing that they scrubbed the QR codes off.
Yeah.
Other than that, though, I'll tell you what, they're pretty solid.
Mate, you put it through, you put it under load and you tested it and it did everything that they're supposed to do. You even put 120 amps on it, mate, and it lasted for over an hour. You know what I mean? You loaded it up and it come
completely
up.
full to completely empty.
If you're an Andy King's person, what's Simon's clip on that? Where he pulls one apart and he puts it through the test, and it came up trumps, mate. And I went in the other day and they were $470 or something for a 120 amp lithium battery, and I bought one. Haven't used it yet, but I'm just going to use it as a power source in the shed. I got a battery box on the way, an iTech World battery box. I want a decent battery box to put it in, but because I gave my second iTech World one to my son Phil. Well, there you go. So, this one here, Rando, I'm going to say yes for this. Remember Alan Gray, mate? He used to be Ruthie's mechanic on Milo, and that old Alan Gray used to be on four-wheel drive action, probably one of the best mechanics in Australia. Just before I bought the BT50, I spoke to Alan Gray at a four-wheel drive show, and he said, mate, I said about mods, he said, the first thing you do to that diesel engine is put a second fuel filter on it. So Rando's asked here, secondary fuel filter, yes or no? I say yes. What about you, mate?
100%, 120%.
Yeah.
So go for a pre-filter oil strainer. So your main filter will be probably 5 micron or thereabouts, depending on the manufacturer, and then go for a 30 micron or something as a straining filter with a glass bowl on the bottom, preferably with a little alarm if it gets too much water in there.
Yeah. My mechanic here, he said the best one to get is a 30 micron. He said that is the 30 microns proven to be the best water separator filter on the market. Get a 30 micron as your thing, and then your factory's probably a 5 micron. So makes sense to go from a more coarse one to a finer one as you go down. But yeah, I'd say yes for that, Rando. Clean fuel, as Brad Howell's a 40-year bloody motor mechanic, knows his stuff. Clean fuel is vital, especially with a diesel engine. Absolutely it is. Brad's done some work on the BT50. I'll tell you what, Brad, I wish I lived close to you, mate, so you could be me permanent mechanic, because you did a fantastic job on the BT50, mate, when I came through Newcastle. Brad used to own Ultra Tune at Maitland there. In New South Wales, mate, owned the Ultra Tune. His sons have got it there now, guys. So if you're ever around Maitland, make sure you book your cars into Ultra Tune there. Brad's boys own there, and they bloody very, very good mechanics, let me tell you. Crimp versus solder on Anderson plugs.
I upset every single Sparky I know in Australia with this one.
My old thing, he said he solders, and that's what I do. When I've done a couple of Anderson plugs now, I throw solder in it. What do you do?
Again, it depends. I use Andersons extensively for like all my testing equipment and stuff as well, because they're just so universal and they work well.
Brad crimps?
And look, and every single Sparky I know only crimps, but it turns out that solder is less resistive slightly than a crimp, which surprised me. So there's a way to test you can't stick a normal multimeter across a crimp versus a solder and be able to tell the difference. You need to use a Kelvin connection, or the way I did it, which is a 4-wire resistance method, to measure very, very low amounts of resistance. But it turns out solder is electrically superior to crimping, which upset a lot of people. That's fine.
I know a lot of people just. I guess you can crimp
a lot of stuff
with solder.
Sorry,
you can crimp and fill in with solder. You can do both. Phil said he does both there.
Yeah, so I've done that. I actually tested it in that video. So I crimped it with a hydraulic crimper, and then I drilled it into the top and soldered up the top.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
The jury's still out as far as durability, long-term durability for solder versus crimp is concerned, but as far as strictly electrical resistance, solder is superior to crimping.
Oh, well, there you go. So I solder mine. I've only done a couple of Anderson plugs, but I actually solder. And I don't know what it is. I love the smell of solder. It's an unusual smell, but I love the smell of solder. I'm a bit weird, I think. I'd add this before I go to the next one. The old thumper. Now, there's a few different brands on that. You've got the King's Thumper. I've got the Ridge Rider, which I'm pretty sure is a Thumper Max out of the same factory in China, mate. Look, we come off Fraser Island. I pumped up the BT50s wheels and my mate's NP300 and another mate's Colorado. So I did bloody 12 tyres from 18 PSI up to 38 on the barge, and the old bloody Ridge Rider or Thumper Max, same one. It did the job, mate. And what are your thoughts on, I mean, these ARB and TJM twin ones, probably a better compressor, mate, but big money as well compared to what you're paying for a Thumper that you can get from Kings or a Ridge Rider one from Super Cheap Auto.
It's a hard sell to buy, the TJM for near $800 and the ARB for 700, getting on for $800.
Yeah.
Versus you buy a Thumper Max for what, $114? I thought I saw them for.
Yeah.
On special. Look, a mate of mine's had a couple of them. I think he's on his third now, and I'm still on the same ARB. I don't think there's any. How can we put it? I don't think you're going to get any argument from people about the ARB and the TJM probably being a better quality unit than the Thumper Max.
Absolutely.
But they're so much more expensive. Now, if you're solo traveling, just go out and buy yourself an ARB or TJM or one of the high quality ones.
Yeah.
But if you go out for driving with mates all the time, Jesus, it's and I own and have paid for the ARB myself.
Yeah.
And I usually go full driving with mates, and the Thumper Max, it just works.
Yeah, well, it works and it's cheap. And let's face it, mate, a lot of people that are getting into the four-wheel drive camping and that, we're all on a budget, and everyone's got their budget. Not everyone can afford bloody ARB gear. Let me tell you, I'm one of them. Righto, what's our next one? We've talked about that. The Camp Boss, there they are there. Listen, I might have just got a bad set. I'm sure there's people out there who got the Cam Boss ones. Good thing about them is you can choose what you can dial in what you want your tire to deflate to. You get a set of 4. You can screw them onto your tires and let 4 tires down at once. The same as the Storms. You get a set of 4 and it's a lot quicker. But mate, at the end of the day, the old pencil thing, that'll still get the job done for you.
It does.
Yeah, I only got the Indy Flates and all that type of stuff. Cooler Wars. How good are the Yetis? Are they as good as everyone makes out?
They're pretty good. It turns out the Brewmate's slightly better.
Is that right?
Yeah, out in the sun anyway. Indoors are very. Actually, I think indoors the Yeti was slightly better, and that's because it doesn't have the insert at the bottom, so you had the vacuum insulation right around. The neoprene ones are pretty. They're good for keeping your hands off the coal can. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
They're slightly better than nothing, but not a lot. But the Brewmate with the insert down the bottom, apparently it's got a layer of copper on the vacuum stainless.
Yeah.
And I assume that's why it had such good thermal performance out in the sun. When I stuck them out in the sun, it was not even close. The Brewmate was the best by far, easily.
Is that right? Well, there you go.
And that's without even freezing. I keep hearing that, and I said to the missus, "You watch the comments section. It'll be, oh no, I don't have it. I can't open for more than 5 minutes anyway."
Yeah, I know. Well, and the thing is, when you live up here, mate, and in far north Queensland, you can't stuff around and sit on a can of beer for bloody 40 minutes, or it will be hot. I don't care what you put it in. You got to put it down.
Over the Melbourne Cup long weekend, I was down in Robe in South Australia on the beach there. And the missus toddled off with one of the kids in the car for a few minutes. And I left my Yeti on the bull bar, on the flat of the bull bar at the front. And, of course, I tried ringing them. Not a lot of phone service out there. So we went back a bit of a wander. And they found it. And it had been run over. But not a lot of damage, actually. Quite surprising. So the Yeti might get the tick for the durability.
I'll tell you what, our local hardware here in Innisfail's a Yeti supply, and they've got a big range of stuff now, Yeti. It's not just one cooler. There's a they've got a lot of stuff.
Oh, they do. Yeah, they certainly do. They're a bit of a cult item. I mean, they recently released a pink range, which are all the rage with the ladies, of course, and some of the gents, and they were selling like absolute hotcakes. And the aftermarket sales, because they only had a limited supply, it was like a collectible, and people were, I don't understand collecting Yeti, but each to their own. And they were selling for 3 or 4 times retail for this pink stuff. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. So Yeti's got those. They're becoming very popular now. Those Yeti style cups. Mr. Bullet said Bucks coolers are good. They got Raffer on it. That's why. They're 7 mil the Buckaroo, 7 mil neoprene and whatever. And as I said, we don't muck around up here, mate. You can't afford to sit on a beer for 40 minutes, or she will be hot. Right, we're nearly there. Rebeating tyres. I've personally never done this, but it works. I've seen a few. I've seen Shauno and Graham Cahill rebead tyres using a Rexona can and whatever. You've done it and it bloody works, eh?
Look, prior to actually doing this, I was hesitant to do it. I thought it would be a bad idea. So I thought, look, I'll give it a crack. So I put a pressure transducer on one side so I could keep track of exactly how much pressure's in there. I attached it to an oscilloscope, which has a very fast sample rate. So it takes 4,000 samples per second. So I could see exactly how much it peaked at. Yeah. And I thought it'd be a couple hundred PSI or something like that, and it'd be close to the burst limit of the tyre. It wasn't even close. The maximum I got was about 90 PSI. I tried WD-40. That did absolutely nothing. Rexona, because that's the deodorant I use, and a can of Start Your Bastard. The Start Your Bastard, the gradient on the graph was a lot steeper, so it was a lot more violent, and I wouldn't recommend that. But it only got to about the same maximum PSI, around about 90 PSI. But it wasn't completely terrible, which surprised me. I thought it'd be a lot more dangerous than it actually was.
Yeah, I'd be worried. Yeah, I've seen Shauno and that do it, and I tell you what, you get your hand out of the way pretty quick. But it is a good way to get yourself out of the shit if you bloody do run your tyre off the bead. I'm bloody clicking the wrong thing. Fridge covers. I've got a fridge cover on my 40-litre angle. Now you did a test on a 75-litre, I think it was.
Yeah, 75
fridge cover, and some bloody remarkable findings there, mate. As I said, it wasn't, you actually put the equipment on there. Let us know how the results went.
Well, firstly, I did one indoors, and it was during the winter here in Melbourne, so it wasn't exactly warm. I know you've only got to wait till the afternoon to get 30 degrees there, Buck, but I've got to wait till February. So I did a little bit of indoor stuff, and I thought to myself, this fridge cover's not working, or it's not working properly. And the only thing I could think of was not allowing the heat to get away from the evaporator. So it drags the heat from inside the fridge and transfers it to the outside of the fridge, and then it gets moved into the atmosphere by airflow. Right, and the mesh on the cover itself was stopping the airflow, the natural airflow, convective airflow. So you actually got considerably worse performance with the cover on than you did with the cover off.
Well, there you go. I'm always very if I put stuff in the back of the BT, I'm very conscious that I don't block the sides to the fridge for that very reason, because I live in such a hot area. So you didn't find any, well, you found that the cover was bloody less beneficial.
Yeah, definitely. So I did try it. I did put some cold stuff in there and see how long it took to get back up to room temperature. And there is a performance advantage from the insulation on the cover itself, but it's offset by the fact that it blocks off the ventilation to the hot side more than it's actually providing a performance benefit to the cold side. So yeah, you use more power and it's worse performance.
I wonder if it'd be beneficial of cutting the mesh out so that because we know mesh can keep the heat in. It's like your swag up here. That midgy mesh keeps the heat in your swag. I just wonder if it's beneficial to cut the mesh out of just the mesh piece. Get rid of that out of the fridge. If you're going to have your fridge cover on, maybe cut the mesh out.
Yeah, I think that'd be the go, or either forced ventilation, one of the two.
Yeah. Okay. No worries. Righto, our next one. We're nearly there, guys. This thing here. Now.
Oh, the old Snatch ring.
I have the Snatch block. They are bloody heavy, and with those, you have to use a bow shackle. I bought this from Drifter when Tofty was running Drifter. I bought that. It's the Red Roads, I think, mate. It's a pommy one from memory.
Yeah.
Now, you did some testing on these. Good thing about these, they're light, they're smaller. These have got a lot of weight, the old Snatch block, for when you're doing a double line pull on your winch. You did some testing on these. What was the findings? It was quite surprising, mate.
Yeah, they're a lot worse. Because they're in yachting circles, they're known as a friction ring, right?
Yeah.
And so the friction decreases the efficiency. So they're about friction-wise, they're about twice as bad as a normal Snatch block. Yeah. And that adds to the overall weight of the recovery.
Okay.
And reduces your factor of safety and all that sort of stuff. And I did see who was doing it. Speaking of yank and ropes before, yank and ropes have come out with one recently that you can do with two of their. They actually have an offset hole, so it's not concentric like the Camp Boss one. Yeah. And you can do effectively a quadruple line pull with two of these blocks with the offset holes. But I've seen a little bit of testing. I haven't done it personally, but what you should be getting is 4 to 1, and what you're effectively getting is about 2.3 to 1 because of the extra friction.
Oh, well, there you go. I've done a double line pull with that, and it seemed to work okay. But, yeah, as I said, probably a lot more friction than the old traditional. But, geez whiz, they're heavy, mate, aren't they? And once again, this all comes down to weight. The weight of that, it's alloy. The weight of your soft shackle, weight's a killer for a lot of people now, and people are doing a lot of things to try and bloody cut down on their weight and having one of those things, but not as efficient as the old heavy Snatch block.
No, I don't carry Snatch rings. I carry Snatch blocks.
Yeah, okay. Camping gear. What's your bloody swag? It's trouble getting my words out then. So you camping a double ARB swag, mate. That's your camping. I just put that up there just to give me a reminder. Your preferred camping method is swag?
Solo swag, yes. When I'm with the good lady wife, it's the Oz tent.
Okay, you got an Oz tent as well. They are a good tent, mate, aren't they? They really are.
Fast,
when you camp in the Oz tent, I find the disadvantage with the Oz tent is then you've got to take either stretchers or, which are no good in real cold weather. I found that out firsthand. Stretchers to put in there, or some sort of inflatable mattress and that. What do you sleep on in the Oz tent?
Okay, so I've got a double stretcher.
Yes.
And then I put I usually grab the mattress out of the swag and throw that on top.
Yeah.
To stop the cold from coming up. And and then because my mattress has an electric blanket on it, if it's cold, I'll turn on the electric blanket.
Nice, mate. Yeah, no, the Oz tents are good, and the old swags are. I get a bit claustrophobic in swags. That's one thing I don't like about swags.
So that's a good lady wife.
Induction cooking. Now, I know this is the big rage now. I can see where they go. So in windy weather and that, the trouble with induction cooking, mate, you've got to have the battery capacity and an inverter to run the bloody thing. I know it's becoming very, very popular, but you've got to have a big battery capacity to run it. And I spoke to you on the phone the other day. The trouble is when you've got these big 300, 400 or 600 amps lithium, when you run it right down, it takes a long time to charge it back up.
It does. Yep, certainly does. Look, the DC-DCs are getting bigger, but then you've got to have the alternator to support it as well, or the amount of solar to charge it up.
Yeah.
The 3 kilowatt, when you're starting to talk multi-kilowatt inverters, 12 volts really isn't that great to run them off because it requires so much current.
Yeah.
So, a 3 kilowatt inverter needs about 250 amps or thereabouts of current to run the thing. And that means really, really thick wires.
Wow.
If people are going to continue to use the likes of induction cooking, and I think that'll unfortunately become the norm because of restrictions with campfires and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think that the answer is multi-volt systems. So what you'll have is your car will still run off 12 volts or maybe even 24 volts, but your house battery or your accessory battery will either be 24 volts or 48 volts.
Yeah, that's the way we could be heading, especially when we get into this stuff that thing. Mr. Bullet, sook cooking, induction. That's exactly right, Mr. Bullet. I can see in a little caravan and that have one of those, you can buy them from Harvey Norman, mate, just the little bloody 12-volt ones that plug in. And when you're at the beach and that, and you're trying to cook with gas and that, and there's some wind around, induction, just a little single induction could be your difference between having some sausages cooked for the missus and not. So I can see the advantage of induction cooking, but boy oh boy, you've got to have a good system to bloody set up. Here we go, mate. Coffee machine or not? I'm an instant coffee man. When I go camping, I have an instant coffee. I think we're getting to. I'm with Mr. Bullet. Sook cooking and people taking their bloody cappuccino, their puffuccino machines out camping with them. I have a Mungalol instant when I'm out camping. I drink instant coffee at home too, by the way. I have a Moccona in the morning.
Okay.
And what are you? You are a coffee machine man or not?
Well, it is a bit of a confession. I don't drink coffee at all. I hate the stuff.
Oh, you don't, righto.
No, it's just something about the smell of it. It just doesn't do things for me. I'm a tea drinker. Earl Grey, Twinings Earl Grey, actually.
Oh, Earl Grey's like bloody dishwashing water.
Yeah, no, I hear that from coffee drinkers.
But I can't do the Earl Grey, mate. That is shite.
And like a couple of mates of mine like to rag me out and call it Lady Grey, but that's fine. It's I enjoy Earl Grey tea. There's a big difference. Yeah, back to the multi-volt system. Just a quick demonstration. So this is this wire here. You can see in comparison to my thumb. This is the sort of wire you need. This is 120 mil wire. This is the sort of wire you need to run a 3 kilowatt inverter of 12 volt. Okay, that's 120 mil. This one here, that's 10 mil. You can get exactly the same amount of energy and run a 3 kilowatt inverter at 48 volts through this piece of wire or this piece of wire. So that's why multi-volt is going to be the way of the future.
Gee whiz, that's a big difference, isn't it, mate?
It's a massive difference.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Some people have probably just opened their eyes up with that. Geez, mate, you're a wealth of knowledge. You really are. Last subject of the night. Okay. You did a demo. Jack Absalom, one of the best ever, using his fire as a bloody storage for air. So if you need to pump one of your tires up, so you can pump up your spare tire rather than keeping it at 40 psi. Your spare, you can keep 100 in it or 150, and you can use your spare tire as a portable bloody compressor or whatever to pump your other tires up.
Yeah, so I saw that on a Jack Absalom video many years ago, and I thought, that sounds like a great idea, but most of us have air compressors. Yes. But the air compressors are pretty limited, and the way you increase air compressor efficiency is by using a tank. And I thought to myself, why couldn't we use the spare tire as a temporary pressure vessel? But you don't want to do it without testing that it's safe or safe-ish.
Yeah.
And well, I didn't know, and the manufacturers weren't telling me what the burst pressure of your average four-wheel drive or passenger tire car was. So I decided to find out, and I assume you got the video there, have you?
I have. We're going to show them in a minute, mate. We'll show them the bit where she goes. Give us a bit of an insight into it.
Okay, so I thought, well, the first part of working out whether a tyre is, a tyre carcass is a suitable pressure vessel, didn't have to worry so much about the steel rim or the aluminium rim. That'll be fine. But how many psi can a tyre take? Now, you need a factor of safety, and usually for the likes of, let's say when they pressure test fire extinguishers, for instance, they usually pressure test them to 3 times what their working pressure is. So if the working pressure is 100 psi, they'll test them to 300 psi, and if they can hold 300 psi, well, they get stamped with a working load limit of 100 psi. So 3 to 1. Yeah. Right. So I thought, well, what's the bursting pressure of a tyre? So I thought the only way to find out was to get a bottle of nitrogen. Now, nitrogen in a steel cylinder is about 4,000 psi. So I thought, well, it'll be definitely less than that. So I'll just keep filling up the tyres, and I'll step behind the car and let it rip and data log and find out exactly how much pressure these tyres can take. So that's what I do.
A normal car tyre, you got about 150 psi in that before she burst.
No, the normal car tyre, surprisingly, well, it's a lot smaller, so you'd expect it to be, it wouldn't need it as thicker walls.
Yeah,
that was about 300 psi.
Oh wow! Back on to how we can use our spare tyre as a vessel to carry air to pump the other tyres up. What do we need if we've got, say, 200 psi in our spare? So we've got a fair bit of air in that we can use if we need to emergency pump one of the other tyres up. What kind of hose are we looking at to go from the spare onto your normal tyre?
Well, to get a decent amount of volume out of the tyre, you'd want to remove the Schrader valve, and you'd need a screw-on type adapter. Definitely a screw-on adapter. So you can get screw-on to 1/4-inch MPT or something like that, or BSP. And one of those that adapt directly from the Schrader valve without the valve actually in there. So that they restrict a lot of air to the Schrader valves. So therefore you can pump it up, and then you can whoosh the air out nice and quickly.
Okay. And and then you did a test as well with a 35-inch mud tyre.
Yep.
Muddy. And what we're going to do to finish the night off, mate, before we say thanks and say goodbye to everyone, is what's your reaction when it comes? And you were telling me before, you knew it was going to happen. You didn't know when it was going to happen. So anyway, we'll have a bit of a laugh to finish the night off, mate.
This is not staged at all.
No. Hang on, I've stuffed something up here, mate. I've got to get rid of this one first.
Okay.
I've got to get rid of that. There we go. Now I might have a chance here. Present, share screen. Here we go. I'm in business now. I had that other one still open.
Yeah, okay. No worries.
Here we go. So you can see there, you're cowering behind your car, mate. There. You've already blown up the normal car tyre. And this one here, you're waiting, and you nearly had about 300 psi in her, and you're waiting for her to go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, watch this, everyone. What's Simon's reaction?
I've just turned it up to 20 bar, but our bottle's getting towards the end. Oh, jeez! Right, ladies and gents, here's the aftermath.
Have a look at
Firstly, the rim.
Mate, it just did a job on that rim, didn't it?
It certainly did. That's a rock monster rim too. It's not some cheapy aftermarket one. That's an American brand of rim. An older one floating around. So it certainly did a job on that. I think there's a bit of slow-mo footage coming up too as well.
Our bottle's getting towards the end. Oh, jeez! Right, ladies and gents, here's the aftermath. Firstly, the rim.
Wow.
These aren't $20 rims. These are Rock Monster from memory, decent steel rims from the States. And as you can see, formerly round, not so round anymore. And the tyre, well, it blew it clear off the rim. It's cut all the wire in the bead there. It's turned part of the tyre inside out. But let's check out the graph. And here we have the results for the 35-inch muddy.
And this is what Simon does on all his stuff, guys. He does the testing on it, whether it's a King's lithium battery or the tires. He's got all the data to back it up with graphs and everything. It's a really, you've got to get in and check his YouTube channel. It's fantastic.
Max inflation pressure. Now, our passenger car tire, don't forget, 295.75 PSI. And our muddy, well, let's have a look. It maxed out at 307.61 PSI. Now, you've got to remember, that's more impressive than it actually sounds because it's a much larger tire. Therefore, you need a much thicker sidewall to contain the same amount of pressure. So it's actually really, really good. I was quite impressed with the 35-inch muddy's performance. Righto, on with the slow-mo.
Where the rim go?
Yeah, shot it out the back.
That's why in the army, when we had the old split rims, yeah, if you're ever inflating a split rim tire, they had to be in the safety cage for that very reason. There, mate.
Yeah, did a job on the star picket as well.
Yeah. There you go. 300.
It was a 307 for the muddy.
Wow. Now I've got to work out how to get back in. 307 PSI. There you go. That's a lot of pressure. So it just goes to show, what are you normally keeping your muddies? Bloody 40 PSI, 45, 50 maybe. They can go up to 300. Not that you do that, but yeah, not a bad way to, if you need some extra air, your spare tire is one way to do it. Anyway, mate, we've talked for 3 hours. This has been the longest live feed in history. I've just broken YouTube. Yeah, and we didn't.
How many people was there hanging on there, Buck?
Mate, we got 112. They were up to 140 something. We still got 112 hanging on after 3 hours. You guys are absolute legends for hanging in that long. Thank you so much. All the Mexicans down there, all the Vics. It's probably midnight down there. They're all in bed. Their missuses are getting up them for being up so late.
10:30. It's 10:30.
Thank you so much for coming on. You're a knowledgeable guy. You really are. If you haven't done so, get on and subscribe to Lock Your Hubs 4-wheel driving, and you'll see stuff like that on there. Simon putting all the gear through the test and backing it up with data and that. And it could, the good thing is too, mate, some people are probably looking at some of the gear that you're testing, and your testing is going to make their mind up whether they buy that item or not, which is fantastic. And you cover it, you got the data to back it up. So it's not you're doing the testing on the items.
Yeah, it's just not that's a big thing. That's a whole mantra of the channel. It's just not opinions, just facts.
Yeah, there you go. 10:30 down in Mexico. Matthew Lilly, one of your mates down there. Anyway, mate, I hope you've enjoyed the night. You're a wealth of knowledge. You really are. You've got a lot of knowledge up in that noggin of yours, mate, and you've got a fantastic YouTube channel. Once again, congratulations on hitting the 20,000. That's a pretty big deal in the world of YouTube. Keep it going, mate. You're doing a fantastic job, and you probably don't realise, but you're helping a lot of people out, and people love watching YouTube channels like yours. And I wish I had half your knowledge. I really do, because you know your shit, mate. You really do. Anyway, all the best to you and the missus and everyone down there, mate. Keep up the good work. And
thanks to everyone joining us tonight. Much appreciated.
Yeah, Monkey's on. I haven't seen Monkey for a while. There, I missed him. He moved just as I was about to click him. Yeah, no, this is a record, mate. So you can say I just broke the YouTube record for live feeds. No, I think Kaz did a 12-hour one once.
Oh, really?
So yeah, as I said, we still got 100 on, and we've been on for 3 hours. We covered some really good subjects tonight. Hope you all got something out of it. Hope you all got something out of it, guys. Hope you enjoyed your night. And I'm not going to keep you any longer. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. You're a bunch of bloody legends. And make sure you bloody like and subscribe to both our YouTube channels, whether some of the little guys on the block, but we do it as a hobby, and it's good fun, mate, isn't it? But it can consume a bit of your time, but it's bloody good fun.
Yeah.
Thanks again.
Thanks very much, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Good night.